The Incredible Hulk will not be presented this evening.
We will begin our attack run on the Acolyte by exposing it for the trite, unoriginal, and indeed plagiaristic trash that it is. The Acolyte head writer and showrunner, Leslie Headland, thinks of her abomination as original, boundary-pushing, and edgy. It's set in the High Republic era, an era we have never seen in Star Wars, and an era we still have not seen since there is no world-building in the Acolyte. Headland is quoted as saying,
"This show will not be kind to the Jedi."
She has harped on endlessly in interviews about how the show is influenced by her own experiences as a lesbian, and the cast involved in this calamity have been instructed to spew postmodernist crap about how good and evil don't really exist in the Star Wars universe.
But if you can't look and see that Anakin blowing up the Death Star possibly killed millions and millions of people.
You might even say that good and evil all depends on one's point of view.
From my point of view, the Jedi are evil. Well, then you are lost!
How original. The most shameless plagiarism the Acolyte commits comes in episode 3, the Lesbiene Gesserit of Mansundani. In this episode, we learn that powerful Leda...
She's a powerful leader. She's a powerful leader. Yes.
has mastered Force IVF and created a pair of twins, May and Osha, who Qui-Gon Jinn tries to recruit as Jedi Padawans. Let us here do a brief recap of the story of how Qui-Gon Jinn meets Anakin in The Phantom Menace. Qui-Gon ends up on an Outer Rim backwater planet and by chance meets a boy unusually strong in the Force. An exchange with the boy's mother follows.
Who was his father?
There was no father.
Qui-Gon offers him a chance to become a Jedi. The boy wants to be a Jedi, but there are obstacles in his way. He overcomes the initial obstacles and escapes the planet with Qui-Gon Jinn in a chaotic, life-threatening finale catalyzed by the actions of an evil character intent on destruction and death. Now let's recap Qui-Gon Jinn's character journey in episode 3 of The Acolyte. He ends up on an Outer Rim backwater planet and by chance meets two girls unusually strong in the Force. An exchange with the girl's mother follows.
Where is their father?
They have no father.
Qui-Gon offers them a chance to become a Jedi. One girl rejects the offer, but the other wants to be a Jedi, but there are obstacles in her way. She overcomes the initial obstacles and escapes the planet with Qui-Gon Jinn in a chaotic, life-threatening finale catalyzed by the actions of an evil character intent on destruction and death. Are you noticing any similarities here? Leslie Headland consciously set out to cheapen the significance of Anakin Skywalker's Immaculate Force conception and thus Anakin as a character by creating female characters that did it first. Leslie achieves this by plagiarizing Act 2 of The Phantom Menace and updating it for a modern audience. Qui-Gon Jinn, the stoic proficient paternal Jedi Master, is now Qui-Gon Jinn, the stoic proficient paternal Jedi Master, who it later turns out is an emotionally incontinent, blundering imbecile. The young, warm-hearted boy who will one day become a cold-hearted man and who embodies both the good and the dark side of the Force is replaced with two twins, one representing good,
The Jedi are good.
one representing evil.
The Jedi are bad.
Brilliant use of subtlety, by the way, Leslie, and A+ for the dialogue. Although this core element of the Acolyte is shamelessly pillaged from The Phantom Menace, Leslie Headland does deserve recognition for innovating upon the material she has stolen. She innovates in two areas, acting and mystery. She one-ups Jake Lloyd's appalling child acting by casting two appalling child actors, both of whom give far worse performances than Lloyd did in The Phantom Menace.
They take you, I will stop them. I don't know if I want to be a witch. Don't you wonder what could be out there?
More on that acting later. Headland also creates an interesting mystery around the conception of the twins. In The Phantom Menace, Shmi claims that Anakin did not have a father, and she was just pregnant one day and that was that. It's certainly possible, but Shmi's explanation does leave open other possibilities. One, she's lying to entice Qui-Gon into taking an interest in Anakin, and ideally, take him the fuck off this shite heap of a planet. And the second possibility...
There was no father.
Shmi, remember that night you and your neighbour, Bill Cosbala, got drunk together and you blacked out? So not too much of a mystery, really. But with the immaculate conception of the strong, diverse, powerful twins, the mystery involves potentially dark secrets. Powerful Leda,
She's a powerful leader.
believes that she created the twins with the power of the Force, and She-Bowser goes along with this absurdity. Now, obviously, someone is lying. Someone has a secret. Either there's something powerful Leda isn't telling us.
Don't get excited.
Or our girl She-Bowser has been a very naughty little Koopa.
I carried them.
I created them.
Of course you did, babe. You're right. You're always right. Like that time you walked in on me and the pool guy testing the durability of the mattress to make sure it didn't need respringed, and you said you thought the mattress was fine, and you were right. It turned out it was fine. Of course you created the twins. Who else could it have been? No one, obviously.
Leslie Headland doesn't give us the answer to this mystery, choosing instead to leave it open to audience interpretation. Now, there are some idiots out there who think that Leslie was seriously suggesting that the twins did in fact originate as a result of sexual force manipulation by powerful Leda, but this idea is so stupid that even Leslie Headland couldn't expect the audience to take it seriously. I mean, powerful Leda discovering force IVF and using it on a Koopa to create humans? It makes no sense. If powerful Leda had indeed mastered Force IVF, why didn't she use it on herself or on any of the many other witches in the Coven? Did some of the other witches not feel that powerful Leda was holding out on them? This is a colony of lesbian witch communists. There's not exactly a glut of virile men hanging around, and in the absence of a donor, why shouldn't powerful Leda step in to satiate the maternal instincts of some of the other witches? She doesn't need sperm, so presumably she doesn't need an egg. She can just conjure a human embryo inside the womb of a female using the Force. This means that a woman of any age can carry a baby conjured inside her by powerful Leda. So either not a single woman in the Coven has requested that powerful Leda impregnate her, or they have made this request but powerful Leda has refused. And was She-Bowser at all upset that she was impregnated with humans and not Koopas? Or at the very least one human and one Koopa? I'm serious, man. Girls, imagine you went to a communist witch coven in the far reaches of space, and it's run by a strong, diverse, powerful female Koopa, and she uses her command of the Force to impregnate you, and you give birth to a fucking Koopa. Not a half-human, half-Koopa, mind, just a Koopa. I can't imagine you'd be too pleased. You may even feel like your body has been used as a vat for the reproductive prerogatives of an alien species, and begin to wonder if you'll ever be allowed to leave this failed lesbian socialist experiment and return to the glorious world of capitalism. That is the position that powerful Leda has put She-Bowser in, and hold on. Just stop everything, man. Why in the name of Darth Talon's breasts would you even go to the bother of conjuring a Force embryo inside a Koopa in order to have kids? There are easier ways of doing this. Send a witch to the Mos Eisley Cantina, recruit a few eager young pieces of hot space trash, bring them back to the colony, and have them fuck the witches that want the goods fresh from the source, or wank off into a petri dish for use by witches who are too lesbian or otherwise not inclined to get pounded by the finest specimens the galaxy's worst hive of scum and villainy has to offer. But let's be real here, son. If they're good enough for Princess Leia, they're good enough for these two-bit slatterns. Why has Leslie Headland gone out of her way to create a lesbian space colony where men are obsolete and witch initiation rituals consist of lesbian dance theory classes? Hold on. Wait a minute. Could this whole communist space lesbian witch colony that is simultaneously empowered?
She's a powerful leader.
And oppressed?
The galaxy is not a place that welcomes women like us.
Be mere dream fulfillment? Could this all be nothing more than Leslie Headland's barely disguised lesbian fantasy wrapped in a raggedy-ass Star Wars skin suit? Oh my god, I've emotionally invested so much in the Lesbiene Gesserit of Mansundani, and now, to have it revealed as the barely disguised headcanon of a narcissistic identity junkie, it can't be true.
Search your feelings, you know it to be true.
Yes.
No!
Yes.
More on the Lesbiene Gesserit of Mansondani in a bit. The next tritism we will examine is the central plot, a fugitive hunt. Trinity is murdered by a mystery assassin, and after some confusion involving the good twin, Osha, it is revealed that the real villain of the piece is the evil twin, May. So Qui-Gon Jinn leads a team of Jedi to hunt down this fugitive from justice. The initial premise of the Acolyte was promising for about 5 seconds, a Star Wars murder mystery spanning across the galaxy, and in the end we would find out that it wasn't Osha that did it, it was Tyler Durden. And she is Tyler Durden, and she and Tyler have a fight, and Tyler kicks her ass, but she fucking shoots herself and kills Tyler, but it's too late because all the major credit lenders have been destroyed, and now the galaxy is free from the corrupt system of debt-based currency. Then Han Solo blows up the IRS, and Luke Skywalker blows up the Fed, and everybody celebrates the liberation of humanity. Unfortunately, none of that happened, and the murder mystery was resolved in episode 1. So instead of Star Wars meets Twin Peaks, a proposition which had real potential, we get Star Wars meets The Fugitive.
I didn't kill my wife! I don't care!
And not that a fugitive hunt isn't tremendously original in Star Wars, it's just we have had at least 12 of them already. The Empire is searching for fugitive droids containing vital information at the start of A New Hope. Bounty hunters are sent to capture Han and Leia in Empire Strikes Back. Vader was searching for a fugitive Luke Skywalker at the start of Empire and again in Return of the Jedi. In The Force Awakens, the Empire, the First Order, is searching for a fugitive droid containing vital information. Wait, isn't that just the plot of A New Hope? In the Obi Wan Kenobi series, the main character, Reva, is searching for a peripheral character named Obi Wan Kenobi. Not incidentally, so were the Star Wars fans who watched the show. At the start of that series, the Inquisitors arrive on Tatooine in search of a fugitive Jedi, who is later captured and hung after seeking help from Obi Wan Kenobi and being rejected. In Andor, Cassian Andor is on the run, first from a local police force, then from the Empire. At the end of Ahsoka, Admiral Not Thrawn sends Ray Stevenson and his hot apprentice after Sabine Wren. You see, Not Thrawn lets Sabine go to give her a false sense of security, thus assuring her apprehension. A brilliant plan, so devious in its brilliance, so incomprehensible in its application that only Dave Filoni could have thought of it. In The Mandalorian, Din Djarin is on a bounty hunt at the start of episode 1 and accepts the offer to go on another one at the end of that episode. Later, he is himself bounty hunted by other bounty hunters, and that's just season 1 because I could not be bothered reading the Wikipedia recaps of Mando season 2, which was crap, or Mando Season 3, which was one of the most abysmal pieces of boredom torture I have ever endured. I still haven't gotten round to watching the Book of Boba Fett. I did try, but I actually didn't even get far enough into the show to suffer through the bubblegum scooter snail race. If I remember correctly, I threw in the towel when Boba Fett kills a sand dragon. Maybe there was a fugitive hunt somewhere in that train wreck. I don't know, and I'm not checking to find out. So not including Mando Season 2 and 3, or the Book of Cringe featuring zombie Boba Fett, the Acolyte fugitive hunt is the 13th in Star Wars. The central plot of the Acolyte, a fugitive hunt, has not only been done to death, it has been killed, tossed in a sarlacc pit, slowly digested over the course of 38 years, then its corpse has been pulled out of the sarlacc pit, zombified into a horrifying state of living death, paired up with a
female counterpart,
and made to watch Kathleen Kennedy's answer to pod racing. The good twin, evil twin trope is so dated and overdone that it died out in popular media decades ago. A Stolen Life is a 1946 movie involving a pair of twins, the good twin, Kate, a hard-working artist, and the evil twin, Pat, who was brilliantly described by whoever wrote the Wikipedia article as a man-hungry manipulator. Both twins were played by Bette Davis. Pat tries to steal Kate's man, and we get a twist at the end. Twins of Evil is a 1971 British horror movie in which recently orphaned teenage twin sisters, Frida and Maria, go to live with their puritanical uncle. Frida decides to become a vampire to escape the clutches of her uncle, while Maria decides to be a good girl and reject the temptations of vampirism. And there's a twist at the end. Hey, this movie has Peter Cushing in it. I am watching this movie. This is not the last time you will hear from the Despot about Twins of Evil. Bette Davis played the good twin, evil twin role again in 1964's Dead Ringer, a revenge drama revolving around estranged sisters Margaret and Edith. Margaret, through duplicitous villainy, has earned a cushy life for herself, while Edith has fallen into a life of poverty. The two clash again in a dramatic tale of murder and vengeance. The story comes to a climax with a dramatic twist. The 1997 movie Echo is about an evil man, Stephen, who steals his much more successful twin brother Max's life.
The wife, the friends, Uncle Len's money, it's all going to be mine.
Stephen kidnaps Max, then starts working Max's job, fucks Max's wife, and brags to Max about this sexual conquest.
You're never gonna get away with this. Well, I already passed the big test. Sex with Olivia. No. Oh, yes, indeedy.
A treacherous act, to be sure. But then again, not every man subscribes to the principle of bros before hoes. Am I right, boys?
I want to know when you lost your virginity and with whom. And if you've ever seen that young man again. Just kidding. And then again, maybe not.
The movie, of course, has a twist at the end. In The Man in the Iron Mask, Leonardo DiCaprio plays the evil Louis XIV and his pure-hearted twin, Philippe. A group of patriots try to place the rightful king, Philippe, on the throne, but the villainous Louis will not be easily overcome. The movie ends with a dramatic twist. Pretty Things is a 2001 French movie starring Marianne Cotillard. She plays twin sisters Lucy and Marie. Lucy is a hedonistic slut who seeks fame and fortune. Marie is quiet, studious, and intelligent. That's all I'm going to say about Pretty Things, because it is quite a good movie and worth watching, and unlike The Acolyte, actually makes dramatic use of the good twin, bad twin trope, and unlike The Acolyte, the lead actress is actually good at acting, and unlike The Acolyte, the lead actress gets her tits out, and I am proud to recall that when those magnificent testaments to the existence of a benevolent creator came out on screen, I stood and I applauded. I applauded both of them. They are magnificent. Merci, Marianne Cotillard. My favourite use of the good twin, evil twin trope is the brilliant Simpsons Treehouse of Horror 7 in the episode The Thing and I. Bart discovers that he has an evil twin named Hugo who has been kept in the attic his whole life to prevent him from wreaking evil upon the world. Hugo escapes and captures Bart, but is stopped in the act of trying to sew himself and Bart back together again. But there's a twist, and we discover the shocking truth that Bart was the evil twin all along, and that Hugo's lifelong confinement in an attic, raised on a diet of fish heads, was a terrible and undeserved injustice. But at the end, wrongs are put to right, Hugo is released, and Bart is tossed in the attic.
You're crazy! Am I? Well, perhaps we're all a little crazy. I know I am. I went mad after they tore us apart, but I'll be sane once I sew us back together.
I miss when my favourite franchise wasn't a zombified ruin. And on that note, let's return to The Acolyte. Now, just because the good twin, bad twin trope is centuries old and became a dead cliche decades ago, doesn't mean it can't be revived and innovated upon. For example, both girls could turn out evil, or Osha could fall in love with Kylo Rentboy, but then May kidnaps her, locks her in an attic, then goes to have sex with Kylo Rentboy, then returns to the attic to brag about it to Osha.
I totally fucked your guy. It was so hot when he kept calling out your name as he penetrated me more completely than that little orange bitch he wasted in episode 5. Did he wear the gimp mask? No. I did. Slut.
But we can expect no such innovation from Leslie Headland. The series will end with the standard good twin, evil twin twist. My guess is that Osha, like Bart, will turn out to be the evil one all along. She will become the Acolyte, and May, like Hugo, will turn out to be good in the end. Quick note, the script thus far was written before the release of episode 8. So the Acolyte's two central characters are formed of a dead cliche. The central plot has been done at least a dozen times before in Star Wars alone, and the core lore element has been plagiarized beat for beat from The Phantom Menace. In the same episode, she plunders the Phantom Menace. Leslie Headland rewords Yoda's speech about the Force, which the Lesbiene Gesserit refer to as the thread.
Its energy surrounds us.
A thread woven through all of existence.
The Thread has to be the lamest name for anything in Disney Star Wars. That's like renaming the Death Star Star Killer Base or something lame like that. Calling the Force the Thread is cheesy and reductive. The name sounds horrendous, like the bad spitball idea of a 14-year-old fan fiction writer. Calling the Force the Thread reduces the Force to a binding mechanism and nothing else, and infers that the Force is fragile and easily broken. Another hackneyed, predictable, and wearisome aspect of the Acolyte is the revisionist approach Leslie Headland has taken to Star Wars. A revisionist is to a franchise what a vandal is to an art museum. The vandal walks into a museum with a hammer, gazes eagerly around, and asks himself, what can I smash? The revisionist takes the same approach to a franchise. The least pretentious definition of revisionism I was able to find reads as follows.
Revisionism is a support of ideas and beliefs that differ from and try to change accepted ideas and beliefs, especially in a way that is seen as wrong or dishonest.
The concept of revisionist film is illustrated perfectly by this scene from The Last Jedi. What, did you think you would get to be the traditional masculine hero who makes the ultimate sacrifice in a brave stand against tyranny? Did you think you would have a classic redemption arc that elevates you from a wanton tool of an evil gangster empire to a savior of the rebellion's last gasping hope? Lol. No. Let's stop to examine this old, dated, problematic trope and see if we can't expose it for the tired old nonsense that it is. As non-playable sheep would say,
let's unpack this.
We must revise this mistaken understanding of male heroism and envelop it within a more female-centered approach to warfare. Rose of the potato sack, if you would.
I saved you. That's how we're gonna win. Not fighting what we hate. Saving what we love.
Of course, the main target of Rian Johnson's revisionist take on Star Wars was Luke Skywalker. We learned from The Last Jedi that Luke wasn't a heroic savior after all. He was a cowardly, broken down old hermit who abandoned all responsibility and tried to impose his understanding of the Force on his own nephew at the point of a laser sword. Solo, a Star Wars catastrophe, turned Han Solo and Lando Calrissian into thoroughly Disneyfied, pussy-adjacent bores. Han went simping after Emilia Clarke, and Lando was revised from a smooth ladies' man into an emotionally incontinent robosexual. The main target of revisionism in the Obi Wan Kenobi series was, of course, Obi Wan himself. The sage, intelligent, heroic disciple of the Force is gone, and in its place is this.
You were once a great Jedi.
The time of the Jedi is over.
Ahsoka revised the Force itself. No longer was the Force a mysterious, all-encompassing energy that, through many years of hard training, could be manipulated by a chosen few. Now, the Force is an elective accessory open to any and all girl bosses who choose to wield it.
Five minutes later.
The Book of Boba Fett, I can't even. So, going into the Acolyte, Leslie Headland had a serious problem. Picture the aforementioned art museum vandal. She walks up the steps of a beautiful Greco-Roman style building, mallet in hand, gleeful at the vision of destroying the treasures of a Western culture she so despises. But when she enters the museum, she is horrified to discover that there is nothing left to destroy. Every work of art has already been smashed to pieces. There are no intact treasures for her to wield her hammer against. So what does she do? She gets a wrecking ball. Time for this fucking building to come down. By the time Leslie Headland got to Star Wars, there were no legacy characters left to destroy, and the Force was already broken. So she decided to attack the very edifice of Star Wars itself, the Jedi and the morality of the Star Wars story world. The Jedi, a once heroic order of brave warriors, would be revised into a morally grey, if not outright villainous, force of oppression that marginalized Sith bodies and slaughtered an entire coven of innocent Lesbiene Gesserit witches. This is not yet confirmed. Episode 7 and 8 have yet to be released, but it was obvious from the start of the show that powerful leader She Bowser, Reverend Mother Scrotum Face, and the rest of the lesbian witches did not die as a result of Louis XIV's fire. The Jedi slaughtered them.
Side note, the previous paragraph was written before episode 7. The Despot has left it in as a demonstration of how predictable the Acolyte is. The first 3 hours or so of this video will cover episodes 1 to 7, and there will be a separate section on the series finale after that, which, as of the writing of this paragraph, has not yet been released.
Qui-Gon Jinn leads his entire Jedi platoon, including his own Padawan, to slaughter and leaves their bodies to rot while he runs off with his tail between his legs. And the Jedi at Master Yes's temple couldn't even muster up enough of a fuck to put their own Padawan, Obi Wan Kenobi, on a diet. There are no heroes anymore. The Sith also undergo significant revision. We learn that Kylo Rentboy's monologue in episode 5 that he just wants to be left alone to practice his Sith way of life in peace.
What do you want?
Freedom. The freedom to wield my power the way I like.
Despite the fact that he provoked the Jedi by having several of them murdered, and that there are literally millions of Jedi-free planets in the galaxy upon which he could do whatever the hell he wanted without any Jedi ever interfering. But plot holes be damned, Star Wars is morally grey now. There is no good, there is no evil, there are no villains, and there sure as hell are no heroes. Star Wars has been revised, and if you don't like it. Leslie Headland thinks of the Acolyte as bold, daring, edgy, and original. In fact, the Acolyte is the complete opposite. It is dull, predictable, and trite. It's the same owl bollocks Disney Lucasfilm has been shitting out for a decade now. Creative sterility is one of the two main reasons the Acolyte is so staggeringly boring. The second is threadbare plot scraped over too much runtime. Episode 4, A Slow Walk Through the Forest. Episode 6, The Miserly Mystery Box Tour. And episode 7, A Copy of a Plagiarism of a Letdown, are the most tedious pieces of media I have seen since Rings of Power made every ASMR video on YouTube obsolete. Do you know why a fire burns in space?
No, big brother. Why does a fire burn in space?
Because
I know what's going on. I didn't at all.
Of the first 7 episodes of The Acolyte, I consider the Lesbiene Gesserit of Mansondani to be the most abominable, but not the worst. That would be episode 7, A Copy of a Plagiarism of a Letdown. The best is undoubtedly episode 5, Jungle Lightsaber Battle. Let's finish our examination of the Lesbiene Gesserit of Mansondani, also known as the Phantom Menace updated for a modern audience. The Lesbiene Gesserit witches of Mansondani are an excellent example of Schrodinger's space lesbians. They are simultaneously empowered, independent, self-reliant, don't need no man for procreation, and are highly capable of self-defense. However, they are also marginalized and oppressed.
The galaxy is not a place that welcomes women like us.
That one line of brain-dead dialogue,
the galaxy is not a place that welcomes women like us,
sums up so much of what is wrong with Leslie Headland's Lesbiene Gesserit and the epic failure of the Acolyte's world building. Firstly, let's get the big rainbow-coloured bantha out of the room. Yes, Leslie Headland's Lesbiene Gesserit witch refugee colony of Mansundani is a political analogy of the real world. The lesbians are meant to symbolize, lesbians. Very subtle, Leslie. And the galaxy is meant to symbolize the patriarchy. You see, if you're a particularly perceptive viewer, you'll notice that what Leslie Headland has done here is to infer that the world is unwelcoming to lesbians, and that, in an ideal matriarchal lesbocracy, lesbians would form their own society and free themselves from the oppression they experience in the world, in such bastions of hatred and intolerance as Yemen, Saudi Arabia, Somalia, and Los Angeles. By the way, I was not being facetious in my last comment. Leslie Headland genuinely believes that women are oppressed and kept down in the West.
Like, that's how I made my first film, was that I was like, I know what's going on. I didn't at all. And I think it shows in the movie. But I got to make my first one, which helped me to make my second one. And the second one will help me make the third one. And then I stopped because they won't let women make more than 3.
Truly sickening. Imagine being told that you can't work because you're a woman.
I went to meet with an agent because I wanted to pitch my animated show. And he straight up said, it's hard to sell an older white male right now. I can't get an agent to even get me in the room.
I really feel for Chris Gore. If only she had been born a man, then she wouldn't be facing such brutal discrimination. The second problem with Powerful Leda's assertion that the Lesbiene Gesserit are not welcome in the galaxy is, what the fuck are you talking about, you pathologically paranoid bent? According to the most upvoted comment on this Reddit post titled, Canonically, How Many Planets Are There in Star Wars?
The Galactic Republic represented about 1.3 million planets around prequel times.
This is just the planets that form part of the Republic. There would of course be many systems and civilizations that form rival political entities and independent sovereign planets, and according to Powerful Leda, all of them actively discriminate against
women like us.
Our galaxy, as far as we are aware, contains one habitable planet, Earth. On that planet, there is such a vast range of political attitudes and ideologies that in some countries, Powerful Leda and her cult would be arrested and executed, and in other countries, they would be feted, glorified, and encouraged to run for political office. And yet, in the Star Wars galaxy, all planets in every system reject them completely. The Lesbiene Gesserit are so outcast, so marginalized, oppressed, and scorned that they are forced to flee to an uninhabited planet in the Outer Rim. Apart from being unrealistic to the point of absurdity, this universal hatred toward the Lesbiene Gesserit is a complete failure of imagination by Leslie Headland. She refuses to imagine how a powerful group of force-wielding women would realistically interact with the Star Wars galaxy in universe. She refuses to even consider the possibility that the vast majority of societies would never even have heard of the Lesbiene Gesserit and would be indifferent to their presence. Instead, Leslie Headland takes the Marxist vision of society as a dominance hierarchy involving oppressor groups and oppressed groups and applies that model to the entire Star Wars galaxy. The Lesbiene Gesserit are an oppressed group, therefore they are oppressed everywhere. They are rejected everywhere and are forced to flee to an uninhabited region, the purpose of which is never made clear because the Lesbiene Gesserit themselves do not have a raison d'etre, at least not an in-world raison d'etre. The reason the Lesbiene Gesserit exist, the reason they are in the Star Wars galaxy, is representation. Leslie Headland wanted Star Wars to have space lesbians, so now Star Wars has space lesbians. Such considerations as world building, history, politics, or geopolitics is reactionary discriminatory and probably also sexist or racist or whatever the hell Amanda Stenberg was rapping about in her hilariously awful music video.
Oh. Sweetie.
If you're not sure what libel you are required to wield against the Star Wars chuds this news cycle, you can check with Karen Green from HR. She has the talking points. Let's conduct a thought experiment. Instead of treating the Star Wars galaxy like a wretched hive of chuds and bigotry and quarantining our Lesbiene Gesserit colony safely away from the galaxy, let's have them interact with the galaxy and see what happens.
It is a time of oppression and bigotry. The evil warlord Fenchad has deployed frat troopers throughout the galaxy to round up Force-sensitive lesbians for an unknown evil purpose. The Lesbiene Gesserit, a group of brave resistance lesbians led by the powerful leader Powerful Lida, have fled the persecution. Borka the Hutt has granted the Lesbiene Gesserit political asylum on Dandoran, deep within Hutt space. Borka plans to use this powerful group of force-wielding witches as a tool to consolidate his growing influence. In order to protect her people, powerful Lida has no choice but to agree to Borka's wicked demands. For now.
This storyline gives the Lesbiene Gesserit motivation, backstory, purpose, conflict, and place. Their motivation is that they want to remain on Dandoran under the protection of Borka the Hutt. Their main purposes are to build up and consolidate their power base on Dandoran, aid Borka the Hutt in his struggle, and long-term defeat Fenchad. They are in conflict with Fenchad and his forces, but also with the domestic political enemies of Borka, and to some extent with Borka himself. They must secure their position on Dandoran to ensure that Borka cannot do away with them once they are no longer of use to him, or when they have become a political liability due to some unforeseen turn in the Great Power Game. The Lesbiene Gesserit's place within the story world is in flux. For now, they are one of a number of factions allied to Borka and will have passable social status on Dandoran. Though this could change in a heartbeat. Borka the Hutt is happy to ally himself with the Lesbiene Gesserit because he is in the midst of an internal power struggle among the Hutt leadership, and the space witches are useful to him. He does not care that they are lesbian witches. He does not care who they fuck, how they fuck, or what witch incantations they chant while they fuck. As long as the Lesbiene Gesserit successfully carry out the tasks he assigns them, he will continue to patronize them. Apart from justifying the presence of space witches in Star Wars by, giving them something to do, the Despot treatment also gives the audience a world to become invested in, the Byzantine, cutthroat political maze of the Hutt cartel, and a powerful corner of the Hutt Empire, which, although ruled over by the Hutts, is populated mostly by a vast mixture of aliens and humans, similar to how the UAE is ruled over by native Arabs, but populated mostly by migrant workers from many countries. Workers who have limited to no rights. Dandoran is a particularly human-heavy Hutt planet. More are arriving every day as refugees from Fenchad's onslaught, and Borka the Hutt is eager to bring them in to serve his regime as cheap migrant labour, debt serfs, and tax cattle. Perhaps he was inspired by the economic model of Canada. So in my story, we retain our beloved lesbian witches, and we have a vast array of diverse people and aliens for them to interact with. We even have boatloads of refugees arriving every day. Everything a growing nation in decline needs. I demonstrate with this brief story treatment that the chief gripe I, and indeed the vast majority of Star Wars fans have with Disney Star Wars is not, as Disney and their access media shills assert, on-screen diversity. The problem is atrocious writing. Disney Lucasfilm's other problems include DEI hiring, projects being led by diversity hacks who are not qualified to lead those projects, boring, hackneyed, cliched plots, story plagiarism, massively underdeveloped characters and factions, powers that don't make any sense, force creep, strawman political analogies in place of genuine world building, story worlds that are emotionally and dramatically vapid and plot stretching, More on that later. Of course, that is to name but a few of Disney Star Wars problems. An in-depth analysis of how completely broken Star Wars has become under Disney would require a separate video. Instead of the Despot proposal involving a Hutt faction, a galactic gang war, a new, heavily populated planet, and, of course, our beloved lesbian space witches, we get there's these lesbian space witches, and they live on an uninhabited planet called Mansondani by themselves, and they don't interact with the galaxy because the galaxy's evil and bigoted and hates them, and that's it. No world building, no politics, no intrigue, no obstacles to be overcome, no conflict. Nothing. Less than nothing. The smouldering ruins of nothing after nothing has been destroyed in a space fire. The Lesbiene Gesserit are not woven into the fabric of the world build. They simply exist in a plot vacuum. They, and this entire mess of a show, are nothing more than the crappy headcanon of some talentless idiot who's convinced that the world is out to get her.
And then I stop because they won't let women make more than 3.
Right, we've avoided it long enough. Let's deal with the orgastic lesbian dance theory ritual.
The power of many.
So She-Bowser gets the crowd going, then the girls part way to make way for their powerful leader,
She's a powerful leader.
And congratulations, Jar Jar Binks. Your cartoon patois is no longer the most annoying noise to ever come out of a Star Wars production.
When he use a thinking, we set in trouble.
You know what this chanting is? Hippie cringe. It's the kind of thing rural American colonies of urban boomer trust babies would have thought was cool in the early 70s. I honestly would not have been surprised if the procession of witches parted ways to reveal Charles Manson, who shows up in a neon purple robe and starts leading the chant.
My lesbian witches, are you gathered here upon this rock that I may reveal to you the truth of all things and the power of the one otherwise known as Charles Manson?
Powerful, yes.
My lesbian witches, do you accept the Force, the whole Force, and nothing but the Force, so help you God, otherwise known as Charles Manson, who, being at one with the Force, is now a divine duality?
The power of 2.
My lesbian witches, being that here upon this planet of Mansondani we are not a dictatorship, autocracy, oligocracy, slaveocracy, plutocracy, or hypocrisy, but are in fact a demonocracy. Who among you, my lesbian witches, will lie with me upon this night, that we may, with the Force as our ally, begin the work of populating this Eden? Of whose power will I be privileged to begin this sacred task?
The power of many. Yes, yes.
I will give Leslie Headland the tiniest bit of praise here, in that I think the idea of a Force cult is a good one. But that's where the praise stops. The form the Force cult takes, a coven of lesbian communist space witches, is so blatantly a politically motivated self-insert that to even ask the audience to take it seriously is to insult their intelligence. I here ask my subjects to imagine that I, the Despot, was hired by Disney to remake The Empire Strikes Back, and the movie ended up looking like this.
Luke, join me, and together we can destroy the globalist governments of the West, abolish universal suffrage, and have orgies with Salma Hayek clones. 200,000 have already been completed, and another 1 million are on the way.
Okay, sounds good.
Great. Oh, but you have to slaughter a room full of younglings as a test of dedication.
No problem.
And you have to hunt down and kill Han Solo.
Cool.
And you have to watch The Acolyte.
Could you take that seriously? Might you respond to the Despot treatment of The Empire Strikes Back with criticism along the lines of, "This isn't Star Wars? This is garbage. It's just some dickhead using Star Wars as an opportunity for a self-insert. Vader never used the Death Star to destroy Canada, and an army of Salma Hayek clone troopers dressed in nothing but slave Leia bikinis is not something I can take seriously. It is just the sexual fantasy of this guy manifesting on screen. I never asked for this, even if it is something I didn't know I needed in my life."
So for me, that scene with Hux and Poe, besides just being a hell of a lot of fun, was also something that felt essentially Star Wars.
How would you feel if I, the entire Access Media, and Disney Lucasfilm responded to your criticisms by calling the fanbase an embarrassment, soy latte drinking, limp-dicked incels who can't stand the sight of a hot bitch on screen because it reminds them of what a pathetic failure they are with women. Then we assert that it's about time Star Wars had a hot babe in it.
And we're in 2024 now, and I think it's about time that we had a woman come forward to shape the story in a galaxy far, far away.
And if you don't like smoking hot bitches in Star Wars,
you're no Star Wars fan in my mind.
Would you feel under attack from the franchise? Would you feel bewildered at the obscene shamelessness of the gaslighting you and everyone else in the fanbase were being subjected to? When an identity junkie lesbian makes a Star Wars show about lesbian space witches who live in an all-female communist matriarchy lesbocracy, conceive children by themselves because they don't need no man, and are persecuted for their existence, that is not Star Wars. It's just the sexual and political fantasy of some random bitch who used to work for Harvey Weinstein, and unlike an army of Salma Hayek clone troopers dressed in nothing but slave-lay bikinis, the Lesbiene Gesserit is not something I need in my life, and not something anyone other than Leslie Headland needs in theirs. If you want to see how to do space lesbians properly, watch my movie pitch for Attack on Lesbos Prime, which is timestamped in my Damsel video. The Despot's space lesbians are integrated into the world build. They have clear motivation, goals, and geopolitical imperatives. The most obvious problem with the Lesbiene Gesserit is that they are a cheap knockoff of Dune's Bene Gesserit. The Lesbiene Gesserit are witches, though in Dune this is a slur used against the Bene Gesserit. They can take possession of a man's body through force manipulation. They are an all-female order. They are powerful.
She's a powerful leader.
And they even have their own Reverend Mother Scrotum Face, who appears in the show for a few seconds, is revered, wise, and clearly very important to the Lesbiene Gesserit order, then is completely forgotten about. Of course, the most broken aspect of episode 4, and indeed the entire Acolyte series, is plot. If I go into detail about how completely broken the plot of the Acolyte is, this video will still be playing when Kathleen Kennedy finally resigns as the head of Lucasfilm in order to escape the expansion of the sun's outer layers, though she will no doubt resume her role once Lucasfilm gets set up in a new solar system. So no, a stone fortress would not go up in flames within a few seconds. Why does Louis XIV suddenly decide to burn Philippe to death? Why would adolescent twin sisters have such starkly opposing viewpoints about the Jedi when they have both been subjected to the same system of anti-Jedi indoctrination? Why does powerful leader say the Force is not a weapon, then immediately proceed to demonstrate its utility as a weapon, etc. All of the Acolyte's plot holes will be addressed in the plot holes section, but for now, let's move on to the child acting.
I don't want to do the Ascension. It isn't fair. I share everything with you, and you hide things from me or run off alone. Don't you wonder what could be out there? The Jedi are bad. The Jedi are good.
Let me be kyber crystal clear on the point that these atrocious performances are not the fault of the two kids involved. The fault lies entirely with Leslie Headland and Disney Lucasfilm. Why has a competent child acting coach not been brought in to work with these two girls? I understand that mixed race identical twin sisters are hard to come by, so we can take a pass on the use of fraternal twins, but if you couldn't get identical twins, why not just use a good child actor and have her play both roles? Why were these girls cast? They're absolutely terrible. I believe we can refer to Leslie Headland for the answers to those questions.
I know what's going on. I didn't at all, and I think it shows in the movie.
Disney has the worst record on the use of child actors in Hollywood. That kid that played Peter Pan in Lars 17 gave the worst performance of the iconic character ever to libel the work of J.M. Barrie. The lost box tickers weren't much better. The kid who played knockoff Shorty in Indiana Jones 5 read his lines like a cognitively underdeveloped toddler.
I just thought we were in this for all the wrong reasons. You know he's never gonna let us sell any of that stuff.
And now this from the Acolyte.
I love you, Mama.
Child actors are notoriously terrible, but good ones are not impossible to find. It can be done. In The Acolyte, Jackie is played by Daphne Keane, who was great as X-23 in Logan. The one thing I will give the Obi Wan Kenobi series credit for is that the actress who played Baby Leia was actually good. Certainly a hell of a lot better than Moses Ingram.
Fire! Light him up! Ah!
Where is he?
Then admit you're a spy.
Enough!
That said, having Princess Leia in the series as a child was the single worst story element in the series by far. It trashed canon, trashed Obi Wan's character by turning him into an oathbreaker, and turned the series into even more of a fan fiction farce than it already was. The production had originally planned to have a story revolving around Luke as a boy, but following Disney's implementation of on-screen diversity quotas, Luke had to be scrapped because he was a boy, and Leia was tossed into the story instead because she's a girl. If The Acolyte was an indie film production who had to cast the producer's nieces to save money, that would just about be a legitimate excuse for child acting this bad, but for a $180 million production, this is inexcusable. This,
Of course you want that. No, you want that.
Girls.
is what happens when you hire that.
I know what's going on. I didn't at all.
The hiring of a lesbian feminist showrunner may be diverse, equitable, and inclusive. All excellent hiring criteria that I would never dare argue against over the course of a 2-hour video, but
I know what's going on. I didn't at all.
Before we get to our examination of the second worst episode of The Acolyte, A Slow Walk Through the Forest, there are a few aspects of episode 2 that we must address. In this episode, Qui-Gon Jinn gets the team together, Jackie, an ambitious orange brat, and Yord, a by-the-book Jedi Knight, who, it has been theorized, is a thirst trap for teenage girls, as well as an incompetent man for Jackie to insult.
Yord, put your clothes on.
This team had potential, but like everything else in this self-annihilatory Disney Lucasfilm calamity, the potential is not tapped into, but more on that later. Maria teams up with the gang to hunt down her evil twin Frida, who is off trying to kill Jedi Master Yes at the behest of Count Kylo Rentboy, who is in disguise as a local peasant. Jedi Master Yes is meditating in a futile attempt to find inner absolution for Yes's 1997 album, Open Your Eyes. Frida finds Master Yes and, after trying and failing to break through his force bubble, acquires poison from Kylo Rentboy and returns to offer Master Yes the wages of Yes's 1997 effort. Master Yes agrees to undergo Canadian healthcare treatment, but just as the poison is about to touch his lips, he changes his mind and decides that even if Open Your Eyes was ultimately a failure, the opening track, New State of Mind, was an absolute banger. And No Way We Can Lose was pretty good too. So he refuses the Canadian healthcare, choosing instead to live, because he still has something to give to the world, and whatever his past mistakes, tomorrow is a new day. He will go on making music with a newfound passion, and be an inspiration for all those who have fallen, but risen again from the depths of despair to find redemption. So Frida resorts to the nuclear option. She pulls out her phone and shows Jedi Master Yes what has become of music while he has been meditating over the past 27 years.
Right here, right now.
Jedi Master Yes's death is an example of one of the worst aspects of The Acolyte, wasted potential. The wasted potential includes the squandering of talented actors, not utilizing character traits to generate tension and humor, payoffs which could have been good but weren't set up properly, and an absolute refusal to pay off setups. Jedi Master Yes has been meditating for 10 years. He could wake up and share with Frida the secrets of the Force that he has glimpsed in his meditations. He could take possession of Frida's mind and force her to endure a Force vision in which she witnesses the consequences of her murder of Trinity. She struggles in vain to block out the mental vision of Trinity's family mourning her, and she sees something else. A lover. Trinity, it turns out, was a very naughty Jedi. The vision ends with a few flashes of the lover preparing himself for his revenge. This vision accomplishes a few things. It goes some way to paying off Jedi Master Yes's meditations by showing the audience that he has, through discipline and sacrifice, become much more powerful in the Force. It pays off the murder of Trinity by showing that her murder will have consequences for Frida. Trinity's function in the script is to drop dead at the start of episode 1 to catalyze the fugitive hunt and to give the series a dramatic opening. and that's it. The murder is connected to the plot, but not the story world. The Jedi go looking for the murderer, not because Trinity has been killed and they are out for revenge, but because a Jedi has been killed and the assassin poses a threat to other Jedi. But where are Trinity's close friends from her Jedi training days going out to seek vengeance? Where is her secret lover who swore never to commit violence again, but who breaks his oath in a fit of passionate rage? Where is her sister Switch, who works as a bounty hunter in the Mid-Rim? Why has no one come looking for answers or justice for Trinity's murder? The vision also sets up a subplot. Trinity's mysterious ex-lover is now on a revenge mission. He's coming for Frida. All of that could be accomplished in 30 seconds with no exposition. There is more world building, setup, and payoff in that half-minute fix than there is in the entirety of episode 4, A Slow Walk Through the Forest, or episode 6, The Miserly Mystery Box Tour. There's a lot more you could do with Jedi Master Yes after he wakes up, but for the sake of brevity, let's get to the point. The Acolyte does nothing with him. There is no payoff to his meditation. He just wakes up, accepts Canadian healthcare, and dies. Before we move on from Jedi Master Yes, I must comment on that makeup. It looks like a crappy attempt at cosplay makeup by a cosplay amateur who has almost no experience. The middle-aged prog rocker hair looks ridiculous, and the actor's real hairline is clearly visible through the prosthetic, forming a hideous, protruding line across his forehead. The beard looks like something you would buy at the gift shop of an American Civil War museum, and no aging prosthetics have been applied. The final result is ghastly.
She's at the top of the stairs every morning when she comes down to do the laundry, making sure she's separating the whites and the darks.
Yes, Bradley, everyone was very impressed with how much aging prosthetic you were able to have applied to your face in your $80 million epic biopic Maestro. Now, if you don't mind, I'm in the middle of a video.
And our children are very jealous because they've never seen her.
Bradley, the Oscar campaign ended 7 months ago. Maestro didn't win anything. No one cared that you exhausted the world's supply of aging prosthetics, or that the movie was gay, and period, and black and white, and a biopic, and had a tragic cancer story, and Carrie Mulligan. It was terrible.
Bradley,
I know this has been hard for you to accept, but you have to
answer your question. Yes, I carry her around with me quite a bit.
Salma, just put him out of his misery. Episode 4 contained an even worse letdown than the anticlimactic death of Jedi Master Yes. The Jedi, accompanied by Max and aided by a groundhog, are trying to find Jedi Master Wookiee to get to him before Steve and Kylo Rentboy kill him. That is the entire episode. Opposing sides walking slowly to the same destination. The only motivation any viewer could possibly have to suffer through this turgid zilch sandwich of an episode is to see Jedi Master Wookiee in action, thrusting away with his massive Wookiee lightsaber. I might be bored out of my mortal flesh right now, but it will be worth it to see a Jedi Wookiee in a lightsaber duel, if nothing else. That will be cool. Well, Steve arrives at Jedi Master Wookiee's place to find him sliced. This is a textbook example of breaking the Chekhov's gun principle. Here is the exact quote from Anton Chekhov explaining the principle.
One must never place a loaded rifle on the stage if it isn't going to go off. It's wrong to make promises you don't mean to keep.
The loaded rifle on stage in The Acolyte is, of course, Jedi Master Wookiee. At the end of episode 2, Master Wookiee force grabs a gun off... Wait, who the hell were those guys? Were they hunters? Whatever, who cares? The show goes out of its way to show Master Wookiee using the Force aggressively. This scene behaves as a teaser that invites the audience to get excited for a lightsaber duel showcasing a Wookiee Jedi, and it comes at the end of an episode, suggesting that this is a cliffhanger, a setup that will be paid off in a future episode. Paying off this setup by having a Wookiee versus Sith lightsaber battle was an open net. Now, I could forgive the show if it missed an open net, if the Wookiee lightsaber duel turned out kind of lame and unconvincing. My attitude would be, well, it was a good idea and at least they gave it a shot. But the show doesn't even shoot at the open net. It turns around and hits the ball into its own net from 90 yards, scoring one of the most impressive own goals in history.
Oh, and it's in! It's an own goal! Well, awful. Absolutely awful.
Well, I think that covers all major elements in episode 2. There's really no other aspects of the episode to chew on, or at least generate some interesting food for thought. As bloated with problems as The Acolyte is, we don't want episode 2 to consume too much of our time. Wait, hold on, stop. Hold frame.
Holy Jesus. What is that?
What the fuck is that? What is that, Private Pile?
So far in this show, we have seen the dark side of the Force, the light side of the Force, the grey side of the Force, and now we see the plus side of the Force, embodied in the person of Fatawan. Sorry guys, that was the best I could come up with. I did have a few other ideas on the short list. Luke Pie Stalker, Count Fudu, Pygon Jinn. Get it? Pygon, because the pie is gone when he's around, because he had it. Let's see what else. Darth Fridge Invader. Eat or eat not, there is no leftovers. Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ham Rolo, Morbidly Obi-Wan Kenobi, Jabba the Food Slut, Yavin 5, Chewbacca but also chew everything else, KFCPO, Widges and Chili Sauce, Darth Ball, the slightly scaled down model for the third Death Star. Now, I have no problem with plus size characters in Star Wars. You didn't hear me complain about Jabba the Hutt or Porkins, who fought and died heroically at the Battle of Yavin 4, or the Gungan King. But Luke Pie Stalker is a Jedi. The Jedi are supposed to be the best and most disciplined warriors in the galaxy. They are the elite. They are like Delta Force if Delta Force was a religion. Self-discipline is the foundation upon which a Jedi builds his power. A Jedi must find oneness with the Force by detaching himself from the material. As Master Yoda says,
luminous beings are we, not this crude matter.
In the very temple within which Count Fudu is training, Jedi Master Yes has been meditating for 10 years. During this time, he has not spoken to anyone. That suggests that the Jedi generally, and the Jedi of this temple in particular, place great emphasis on self-discipline and self-denial. And yet, Darth Fridge Invader doesn't even have the discipline to say no to the side option add-ons that pop up on a McDonald's self-service kiosk when he's ordering a Big Mac. Obi-Wan Kenobi lacks the self-denial required to stay in bed at 5 a.m. instead of getting up to go sneak into Master Yes's room to steal his breakfast. And does anyone seriously expect Ham Rolo to be of any use in a combat situation? Do you think Qui-Gon Jinn would feel reassured to have morbidly obese Wan Kenobi next to him when Darth Maul shows up? Do you think Jabba the Food Slut would be capable of doing a standing backflip to land in Darth Maul's rear? Do you have any expectation that he would be able to stand against a squad of battle droids, or a Sith, or fucking gravity? And what does the state of Yavin 5's health say about the Jedi? The Jedi do not accept adult trainees. They don't even accept pre-adolescents. When a 9-year-old Anakin Skywalker was brought to the Jedi Council in Episode 1, Mace Windu had this to say.
He's too old.
So Fatawan has been with the Jedi since he was a boy, and they have allowed him to eat himself into morbid obesity. Do the Jedi have no health and fitness standards at all? Was there no disciplinary session when KFCPO failed his 8th fitness test in a row?
How you gonna lose weight? How you gonna lose weight? You gotta stay committed, man. This is no game. This is a life and death situation. I'm not gonna waste my time training you, then after training you eating donuts.
For 800 years has Master Yoda trained Jedi. Was he not on hand to prevent Darth Maul from degenerating into a diabetic mess? Now you may argue that I'm being needlessly cruel and elitist. This is Star Wars. Everyone should be allowed to belong to a galaxy far, far away.
You're no Star Wars fan in my mind.
The presence of fat Jedi should not be appraised through a body-positive lens. World building, story world integrity, and immersion are far more important.
Oh my caramellated scarf slush half soy dalgona whipped cream sea salt Dasani ruby beal blackroot blue butterfly Riosa punch quarter salt iced hand drip macchiato. Oh wow, I can feel your anger. Does it hurt to see non-cis white men included in Star Wars? Huh, does it you crybitch? Okay, let's unpack this. Alright, so maybe as far as world building is concerned it's a slight oversight on the part of Leslie Headland to suggest that a plus-size body-positive individual could be believable as a Jedi Padawan. But story world integrity is a small sacrifice to make in the name of inclusion and body-positive messaging. Everyone should be allowed to see themselves in a galaxy far, far away. And toxic fans like you and your bitch-ass chud subscribers need to get with the times or get wrecked. Frosk said it best.
If you don't like it, don't watch it.
Yes, non-playable sheep, finally, 300-pound slobs can park their arses on their long-suffering couches, stuff their faces with junk food, toss the latest piece of junk content from Disney Lucasfilm on the TV, and see in it a reflection of themselves reflected back at themselves. How thrilling, how meaningful, and you are right to invoke the Creature Frost non-playable sheep, because judging by the fact that The Acolyte is the lowest viewed Star Wars Disney Plus series by far, at an abysmal 21% of The Mandalorian Season 3's viewership, Star Wars has gone the way of G4 TV. The idea that the Jedi need to be updated for a modern audience to make them more inclusive is absurd. The Jedi aren't inclusive, they are exclusive. If you're not force sensitive, you are excluded. If you are force sensitive but deemed too weak with the force to get through Jedi training, you are excluded. If you are a 35-year-old pre-diabetic man who can't say no to a side order of McNuggets to go with his daily triple quarter pounder meal, you are excluded. Inclusion, like diversity, is an idea that political activists in entertainment and the media regard as self-evidently good. As with diversity, there is no need to explain why inclusion is a good thing. It just is. And if you so much as ask for an explanation as to why this is, you are deemed some form of bigot. Inclusion is good, therefore the Jedi opening up their admission requirements is a good thing. Pre-diabetic fast food junkies being made responsible for the safeguarding of the political stability of the High Republic is a good thing. Lesbian communist witch covens is a good thing. And Siths who shout their kink,
"I've been a very bad boy, and I need to be punished,"
is a good thing. All that aside, don't Jedi have to resist the temptation of the dark side? Darth Fridge Invader doesn't strike me as someone who would hold up all that well against temptation. Darth Vader offered Luke dictatorial control of the galaxy, and Luke still didn't give in. Vader wouldn't have to offer anything close to that to get Han Rolo on board.
It's McDonald's delicious Big Mac sandwich. It's 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, and onions on a sesame seed bun.
Do you think a dark side adherent as cunning as Sheev Palpatine would struggle to convince KFCPO to give in to the demons of temptation?
You want this, don't you?
Take it. Chow it down with all of your hunger, and your journey toward the plus size will be complete. Details matter. When done well, details aid the world build. When done poorly, they damage it. It matters that a morbidly obese teenager is being trained as a Padawan because his presence suggests an incompetent, ill-disciplined, indifferent, and lazy Jedi Order. It matters that Jackie the Padawanker snaps at Yord and isn't scolded for her insolence, because it suggests that hierarchy is of little import in the Jedi Order, which is contrary to the culture of the Jedi Order as we know it.
We will not go through this exercise again, Anakin, and you will pay attention to my lead.
Why?
What?
It matters that Trinity is powerful enough to be a Jedi Master, but stupid enough to fall for May's obvious diversion tactic. It matters that the Lesbiene Gesserit temple on Mansundani burns down despite being made of stone, and that space burns despite being made of space. It matters that the prison transfer ship doesn't have a single living guard. This was an obvious design flaw with the ship, and yet only now, after presumably many years of service, has a group of criminals had the perceptive genius to notice this flaw and exploit it, and our hero, Osha, just happens to be on the ship when they did. There are hundreds of bad details in The Acolyte, which we will be getting into in the Plotholes section. For now, let us move on to episode 4, A Slow Walk Through the Forest. There's so little substance to episode 4 that trying to make a video essay chapter out of it is like trying to grow vegetables in the desert flats of Tatooine. You might be able to do it, but the effort involved vastly exceeds the rewards of your labor. It is a testament to the vastness of episode 4's emptiness that I have, with a few passing comments and a section on Chekhov's Wookiee, covered almost everything worth covering from the episode, though I have not yet expressed how heartwarming it was to see the introduction of non-binary pronouns in Star Wars.
Is he or they with us?
Finally, non-binary groundhogs can look at Star Wars and see in it a reflection of themselves reflected back at themselves. And so can gay black people.
I was never the best athlete, but I'm black and I'm gay.
reflection of myself.
It's a good thing Carrie Mulligan is banned from the channel. If she were here, she would no doubt launch an attack against our boy Mr. Reflection, given her vindictive jealousy of him. The lesbian space witches of Manson Dani reached depths of cringe, plagiarism, child acting, and stupidity previously thought unattainable.
You can't go. It's not up to you. You can't stop me. Yes, I can. How? I'll kill you.
One hears such dialogue, and what can one say but Leslie Headland? The lesbian space witches of Manson Dani was so preposterously shite that it was actually somewhat entertaining at times. It was like watching a Star Destroyer crash into a Death Star in slow motion. A slow walk through the forest was like watching Banthas fuck in slow motion. Now, I'm fairly confident in my powers as a writer, and I think I could make a 35-minute TV episode about a group of Jedi walking through a forest, at least passably entertaining. You see, the great thing about groundhogs is they can track prey and detect the onset of spring. Actually, I haven't even told you that I uploaded a photo of them in their engineer costume to Instagram, and it already has 83 likes. That's twice as many likes as the photo.
No one gives a shit about your pet rat yard. Just tell him to hurry up and find this bitch. I want to get off this armpit of a planet.
It's they, actually, Padawan. And try to keep close. You keep breaking formation.
You're not my master, yard.
A blessing for which I am eternally grateful. Thank you for the happy reminder, Padawan, Kerr.
What was that? What did you say to me, you Jaden Smith hairstyle sporting fruitcake?
Do you hear that? Oh my god, what is that? Unfortunately, a slow walk through the forest was under the creative direction of Leslie Headland. To sum it up, Kylo Rentboy and Steve go for a walk through the forest to go kill Jedi Master Wookiee. Meanwhile, Qui-Gon Jinn leads a party of Jedi on a walk through the forest with Max and Groundhog They in tow. They hope to get to Master Wookiee before Steve and Rentboy. Out of nowhere, Steve decides that
I'm good.
So she's going to leave her life as a murderous assassin behind, find Jedi Master Wookiee and warn him of the impending danger, then go home, apologize to Max for having sex with her beloved, and release her.
Max, I know I stole your life, locked you in an attic, fucked your guy, and murdered a couple of Jedi, but I've decided that I'm good. So let's call it evens and no harm done. Cool?
Kylo Rentboy escapes the trap Steve left him in, puts on his gimp mask, and attacks the Jedi. The end. The episode is drenched in garbage dialogue and pointless dramatic beats that are the story equivalent of a Kamala Harris speech. Vapid shit designed to fill space with air.
Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs. And there is such great significance to the passage of time.
A slow walk through the forest epitomizes so much of what is wrong with Disney Plus shows. They are loaded with filler. A production with enough story for a medium-length movie is stretched well past breaking point across a full season of Disney Plus content. There's no term for this method of content manufacture, but it has become so common that a term is required to describe it. So I'm coining one now: plot stretching. Plot stretching has become a defining characteristic of Disney Plus content. The cringe of Boba Fett, The Woman DeLorean Season 3, Ass, Oka, and The Reva Show featuring Obi Wan Kenobi all made extensive use of plot stretching. In my DEI video, I mentioned a film YouTuber who re-edited the Obi Wan series into a medium-length movie by cutting out a lot of the dumb, pointless nonsense.
She runs away into the forest and encounters the mercenary, but then we cut it here. No need for the stupid chase, which is truly one of the worst choreographed sequences in all of Star Wars. She's a 10-year-old girl up against trained adult mercenaries. She just gets captured straight away. Done.
Here's another change he made that wasn't mentioned in my DEI video.
We cut away before she finds the communicator because the storyline with her hunting Luke has been removed entirely from this edit. Her hunting Luke adds absolutely nothing and is one of my least favourite things in the entire show for reasons I won't bore you with here because this video is long enough as it is. But to be honest, I think the only reason they included this sequence was because they needed to include Reva in the finale, and for pacing reasons they needed a parallel storyline to cut away to during the showdown between Anakin and Obi Wan.
That was a great change because Reva should have been killed off when Vader stabbed her through the spine with a lightsaber, and not just because she was an annoying character who should never have been in the series in the first place, but because she was just in the way. With her gone, the big final showdown between Vader and Obi Wan is now uninterrupted. We get that climactic lightsaber duel, nothing else. No Reva running after Luke in the desert, or girl boss Aunt Beru revealing her secret hidden stash of weapons because it turns out she's a prepper.
She'll come when the suns go down. Best we get positioned now.
The series featured a completely pointless subplot involving that Indian guy from Ghostbusters Frozen Empire as a fake Jedi. Fuck me, that was a bad movie.
Get back in here! I can't hear you over the nuclear accelerator!
We'll get there. Its time will come. Ice Cube's son had a role in the show for a couple of episodes because sure, why the fuck not? In this scene, he stands right in front of a full platoon of stormtroopers firing at a distance of a few meters and not being hit because Deborah Chow could not block a toilet but was hired to direct this $90 million project anyway because... Plot stretching is the main reason the Marvel Disney Plus shows were next to impossible to get through. Plot stretching is how Leslie Headland managed to make a plot beat involving a few characters walking through a forest last 35 minutes. Plot stretching is how the Acolyte ran the same episode twice. Episode 7 is a retelling of Episode 3, the Lesbiene Gesserit of Mansundani, told mostly from the perspective of the Jedi. Close to half the episode consists of scenes already shown in Episode 3, but from different camera angles. The twins walking in the forest, powerful leaders' cringe-inducing explanation of the thread, Padawan Yes's possession, the twins' force sensitivity test, the confrontation between the Jedi and the Lesbiene Gesserit, the fire, the death of the entire witch coven. Due to the poor communication, a cascade of blunders, and some of the worst and most contrived writing ever inflicted upon the long-suffering Star Wars franchise, the Lesbiene Gesserit were indeed the victims of Jedi brutality, a revelation which I, and everyone else with a functioning brain who subjected themselves to this show, predicted. Qui-Gon Jinn's rescue of Philippe is retold, as is Louis XIV's presumed death and the Jedi flight from Mansundani. All of it is regurgitated, but from a slightly different perspective, and with a few wide-angle shots tossed in. We also learn that She-Bowser escaped this tragedy of errors, but the script forgot about this and does not mention her in Episode 8, or explain why she didn't come looking for her daughters. The new material in Episode 7 is just inane, boring conversation, more plot holes, some Jedi brutality, more character assassination of the Jedi, and a boss fight with Jedi Master Wookiee under the possession of the Lesbiene Gesserit. The Chekhov's Wookiee criticism from earlier still stands for two reasons. The first, this isn't a Jedi Wookiee. It's a Wookiee robbed of his Jedi faculties and placed under the possession of Lesbiene Gesserit witches. Second, this isn't a fight. No one is trying to kill Master Wookiee. They're trying not to be killed and to disarm the Wookiee, but they are doing their absolute best not to hurt him. And this battle, like this landfill site flooded by a sewage overflow of a Disney Plus series, doesn't mean anything. This is not a battle of good versus evil. It is not a duel between two adherents of opposing factions, one representing good, the other representing evil. It's just a morally ambiguous Jedi attacking other morally ambiguous Jedi under the direction of mostly peaceful lesbian space witches. Someone please get me a DeLorean because I want to go back in time and read that sentence out loud to George Lucas before he condemns Star Wars to Disney ownership. Episode 7 is the worst episode of the worst Disney Plus show. It is a regurgitation of an earlier episode that was itself awful. This episode is so mind-fuckingly dreadful that even Grace Randolph gave up trying to defend the Acolyte after seeing it.
Aw, man! That was embarrassing. It was real embarrassing. It was embarrassing for everybody in the show, embarrassing for everybody who makes the show, and perhaps worst of all, embarrassing for all of us who have, up to this point, enjoyed the show, supported, and defended it. It was bad.
The Acolyte Episode 7 can be considered Episode 69 of Disney Star Wars. The full season brings the number of individual installments of live-action Disney Star Wars, including all 5 movies and all episodes of Disney Plus Star Wars series, to 70. The sequel trilogy, Rogue One, Solo, 24 episodes of The Mandalorian, 7 depressing endurance tests released under the title The Book of Boba Fett, 6 fan-base destroying installments of The Reva Show featuring Obi Wan Kenobi, 12 episodes of Andor that nobody watched, 8 episodes of Ahsoka, 8 episodes of
The power of many.
Of those 70 installments of live-action Disney Star Wars, Episode 7 of The Acolyte is the worst. By far. It is a regurgitation of a plagiarism of the worst George Lucas movie. Disney Star Wars started out bragging about how they were going to fix Star Wars to exorcise the demons of the prequels from the franchise. Disney openly declared their disdain for the prequels in the first line of The Force Awakens.
This will begin to make things right.
That line is, ironically, a hideously dated piece of dialogue, a standard example of the kind of annoying millennial meta-dialogue that is a defining feature of 2010's entertainment. Disney started out staring down their nose with sneering contempt at the prequels. Now, 68 installments of Disney Star Wars and almost 10 years later, Disney is shamelessly plundering the prequels in a vain attempt to give their garbage Disney Plus Star Wars content a vague sheen of legitimacy. Episode 7 of The Acolyte isn't just disgraceful, it is disgusting. It's pathetic. Even for Lucasfilm, which is unquestionably the worst studio in Hollywood. Now, I am a fair and just despot. As such, I give the devil his due. When Satan takes possession of the willing flesh of one of his lesbian witches and makes a show about lesbian witches, I do not reject it out of hand because it is the spawn of hell. I watch the show, and if there are elements in the show meriting of praise, I render unto Satan what is Satan's and praise those elements. I did as much in my review of Women Talking, a movie created by the Prince of Darkness in the person of Sarah Polley.
Our freedom and safety are the ultimate goals. And it is men who prevent us from achieving those goals.
Here is a quick recap of the positive aspects of Women Talking. To say The Acolyte gets everything wrong would be an exaggeration. It gets almost everything wrong. But there are a few aspects of the show that do merit, if not praise, at least recognition. The most visible diamonds in the roughly hewn, overflowing dirt latrine are, of course, the performances of Manny Jacinto and Lee Jung-jae. They give the best performances in the show by far. Performances that are reminiscent of Mark Hamill's performance in the Star Wars Christmas Special, a movie which I feel confident in saying we are all developing a newfound appreciation of in the wake of The Acolyte.
Chewie's not gonna want to come home to a house full of long faces, is he?
Come on, Mala, let's see a little smile. Come on. There, that's better. Try to enjoy your life day.
Mark Hamill was really trying in that Christmas special. Harrison Ford looked like he'd rather be auditioning for the role of Davis in Scum than filming this shite.
I'm glad I could be here.
And Carrie Fisher was stoned out of her mind during the entire shoot. But Mark Hamill was giving it his all. Although Mark Hamill's efforts did shine through the many layers of makeup and mascara, the material he was working with wasn't at the same level of his performance. That said, it was a hell of a lot better than what he had to work with in The Last Jedi. Kylo Rentboy's gimp mask is a cool accessory. Nice design, be proud of who and what you are, shout your kink. Apart from the design, I like the idea that the helmet is made of cortosis, though not the execution of that idea. Here's a brief quote from Wikipedia explaining the metal.
Cortosis was a metal that had a very high energy absorption rate and transmission coefficients, which allowed even the energy of a blaster bolt to be dissipated upon contact. One of the strongest minerals in the galaxy, cortosis could even withstand the blow of a lightsaber and briefly short out its blade.
Introducing a lightsaber nullifying metal into Disney canon creates problems for the Disney Star Wars universe in general, but more on that later. Lee Jung-jae gave a good performance as Qui-Gon Jinn. His character was not written beyond a stoic Jedi template, and he had next to nothing to work with in terms of dialogue and characterization, which makes his performance all the more impressive. Qui-Gon Jinn's character is based on the wise, stoic, middle-aged Master Jedi template, a generic but reliable template. He most closely resembles Qui-Gon Jinn. Both are well into middle age, both are patient, understanding, compassionate, and paternal. However, Qui-Gon Jinn's character is built by having him make important and impactful decisions and giving him interesting situations to react to. Qui-Gon decides to trust a young boy named Anakin who offers aid. He has such faith in Anakin that he gambles Padme's ship on Anakin's victory in a pod race. He also decides to free Anakin and his mother from slavery, but in the end has to settle for just freeing Anakin. By the time Qui-Gon is finished placing his bets, the fate of Anakin, Padme, himself, and Obi Wan is riding on a single pod race. Later, he makes the decision to train Anakin himself after the Jedi Council refused to enroll Anakin in the Academy, and this is clearly not a hard decision for him. Qui-Gon understands the responsibility he has taken on in freeing Anakin and placing him under his own care. After he has made himself a father figure in Anakin's life, he places Anakin before himself. If Qui-Gon had survived the Duel of Fates, it is unlikely that Anakin would have turned to the dark side, as he would have had the guidance and wisdom of a paternal figure, essentially a stepfather, to guide him on the path of righteousness, rather than a rival figure, a step-brother, in Obi Wan, which encourages feelings of jealousy and resentment in him. By the time he dies, Qui-Gon Jinn is a fully fleshed out character. With Qui-Gon Jinn, Leslie Headland took a reliable Jedi Master character template, used it to create a basic one-dimensional character, then proceeded to character assassinate that character, having him perform actions that are contrary to the fundamental character traits of the Stoic Jedi template. Qui-Gon Jinn has a Padawan, Jackie, with whom he barely communicates and doesn't seem to have much of an emotional connection with or interest in. He never trains her. There is not a single scene of Qui-Gon Jinn training Jackie. He gets her killed due to his incompetence in not getting her the hell away from the rampaging murderous Sith, and when she is killed, he leaves her body for the carrion vermin. In episode 7, he commits Jedi brutality against an unarmed black body and doesn't even have the strength to force pull Louis and Philippe out of existential danger. Bear in mind, this is the good stuff section of the video, and most of this section consists of criticism of the Acolyte. That is how bad this series is. Lee Jung-jae's limited English ability made some of his line reads quite hard to listen to at times. You could tell he was really struggling with pronunciation.
He was disturbed. Unbalanced.
That said, I admire him for significantly improving his English to take this role. I am a Death Star half-built kind of guy, and I find inspiration in seeing an actor rise to the challenge of taking a role in a foreign language. If the writers of The Acolyte put half the effort into the project that Lee Jung-jae did in his performance, this series might have been watchable. In fact, I'm so inspired by Lee Jung-jae's performance that I'll throw a few lines of Korean into my script in spite of my severe limitations in that language.
내가 장담컨대 카일로 렌트보이는 거기가 작아서 물에서 나올 때 쭉 팔렸을 것 같아. 오시아 표정 봐. 카일로 렌트보이의 라이트세이버 손잡이가 그가보다 클걸. 시즌2에서 오시아가 라이트세이버 손잡으로 뭘 하고 싶은 보여주면 별점이 좀 올라갈 것 같아.
Manny Jacinto, the guy who played Kylo Rentboy, also performed well. He had clearly gotten himself in good shape for the role and was convincing as a powerful Sith, and a powerful Sith hiding his true identity behind the facade of a wimpy buffoon. The selection of character templates that Leslie Headland used in the manufacture of the central character group was acceptable. Yord, the imbecile call monitor, Jackie, the snarky but precocious teen, and Qui-Gon Jinn, the wise teacher and paternal figure, who leaves the dead bodies of his charges to be eaten by carrion vermin. This group had good chemistry, and there was a lot of potential for on-screen dynamism, which was never tapped into. Osha added absolutely nothing to the group. While the aforementioned trio are barely one-dimensional characters, Osha isn't even a character. She's just the good twin. She's good.
I'm good.
And she's the bad one's twin.
The Jedi are bad. The Jedi are good.
And that's it. She's a Rey. That is, a character with no characterization. She has no motivation, no strongly held principles, no weakly held principles, no worldview, no vices, no romantic interests, no friends, no religion, no interests, no hobbies, no ambitions, no goals, no objects of admiration or hatred, and she's completely sexless. She is a textbook case of an undeveloped character, also known as a Rey. Yes, I am trying to make Rey a synonym for an undeveloped character. You can aid the Despot in this effort by providing other examples of Reys in the comments section. Compare the Acolyte's viable combination of character templates in the central cast of characters to the ones Dave Filoni excreted from his ass Oka series. Ahsoka, a stoic girl boss, Sabine, a stoic girl boss, and Green Lady, a stoic girl boss. The three leads had absolutely no chemistry, and there was no conflict, spark, or drama to be generated from three identical boring personality types. I would rather be penetrated by Kylo Rentboy than watch these three boring bints spend time together on screen. A mismatching of on-screen personality types is absolute poison for the script. Indy 5 featured Indiana Jones, female Indiana Jones, and Ratboy, one of the worst team-ups in movie history. Willow featured a dull lesbian couple, a wimpy Indian, and a large nose with a man growing out of it. It did not feature Willow. Rebel Moon featured Bint Eastwood, a brave stoic girl boss, attractive Korean woman, a brave stoic girl boss, male underwear model who is both brave and stoic, the guy from Gladiator, a brave stoic general, and I honestly can't even remember who the other characters were. The most recent season of Doctor Who stars a weepy, effeminate, emotionally incontinent doctor and a weepy, effeminate, emotionally incontinent companion. P. Diddy's apology video featured P. Diddy and an industrial air conditioner.
I was fucked up. I mean, I hit rock bottom. But I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I'm disgusted.
Madam Web featured... You get the point. Here is footage of Sydney Sweeney in a revealing dress. It's easy to get the combination of personalities in the central cast of characters wrong, and The Acolyte basically gets it right in concept. Execution is handled appallingly. The character interactions are boring, mostly pointless, and never take advantage of the dramatic magnetism to be generated from placing conflicting personality types in conflict. For example, Jackie and Osha are playing a game of Dejarik, and Yord wanders over to give his thoughts. If I'm not mistaken, that was an illegal move, Padawan Jackie.
We're playing by our own rules, Yord.
As far as I am aware, there is no alternative rule set for Dejarik. Would you like me to instruct you in the correct rule set of the game?
What I'd like is for you to shut up and shove that eyesore on your head you call a hairstyle up your...
Jackie, I think Yord wants to play. Maybe you two can just play a normal game and I'll watch?
So Jackie and Yord play a game. Yord slowly but surely loses and is clearly livid and doing a bad job of not showing it. Such a scene accomplishes a few things. It uses the different personality types to comic effect. It furthers the characterization of Jackie and Yord and gives Osha a little bit of characterization, and it demonstrates that space travel takes time. The characters have to keep themselves occupied during the long journeys from one part of the galaxy to the next. The Acolyte has absolutely no respect for time and distance. The series uses video game mechanics to warp characters around, the same mistake made by Rings of Power and the season of television whose name must not be spoken.
My queen. Daenerys is our queen. You are my queen. You are my queen.
You will rule wisely and well, while she
is my queen.
In episode 6, it takes Karen Green from HR about an hour in-world to get from Coruscant to Kafar. In episode 8, Karen Green from HR and a platoon of Jedi require only 1 hour to get from Coruscant to Mansondani, and Qui-Gon Jinn and his crew are able to warp around different planets like they have access to the Institute's molecular relay. The speed of these journeys shatters Star Wars canon by shrinking the galaxy down to the point that one can travel around the galaxy faster than it would take a commuter to travel around a major city on the subway. That said, travel mechanics in Disney Star Wars were broken long ago.
Yeah, well, Rey's not here, is she?
By far, the most impressive aspect of The Acolyte is the lightsaber fight choreography. The lightsaber jungle battle is the first time Disney Star Wars has produced a lightsaber battle of any real quality. Disney Star Wars lightsaber fight choreography has been dreadful from the start. Kylo Ren used a lazy, brute force, ugly, unathletic hack and slash fighting style. Rey couldn't even stand properly. The throne room scene in The Last Jedi was hailed as some sort of action fight scene masterpiece when the movie was released in theaters, but when it came out on video on demand, the sequence was examined and torn to shreds on YouTube.
Alright, let's check in on Rey. She's finishing up with this guy who's fighting with 2 vibroblades, or whatever they are. And look, I must have missed it, but this guy clearly just sliced Rey's stomach. How did she survive that? Oh wait, she's invincible. Okay, so he locks his arm down and raises up his hand to stab her in the back. Wait, zoom in? Enhance? Where'd his blade go? This guy literally just does not have a weapon anymore. I guess someone in post realized how stupid it was for him to have a knife in his hand to raise back and him not to do anything about it, that they literally had to edit out his knife. You just can't make this up. If you go back on your own and watch it frame by frame, there's so many moments where you just shake your head and you'll just never see it the same again.
The Obi Wan Kenobi's lightsaber choreography lunged wildly between laughably terrible and downright pathetic. But peak Disney lightsaber fighting, the worst we had ever seen, was Ahsoka. Rosario Dawson looked like a heavily sedated arthritic pensioner in her fight scenes. The first time we get a good lightsaber fight scene from Disney is in the worst Star Wars production of all time.
Ironic.
And you're damn right I'm including the Star Wars Christmas special in that. The Acolyte is to the Star Wars Christmas special what Rose Tico in her potato sack is to Slave Leia. Now don't get me wrong, the jungle lightsaber battle between Kylo Rentboy and the Jedi wasn't great. There are major problems with it, but it got the following fundamentals correct. Fatal intent, fatal lightsabers, athleticism, a sense of danger, innovation. Let's go over those in more detail. Fatal intent. The characters actually look like they're trying to kill each other instead of trying to hit each other's lightsabers. Compare Jackie's attack on Kylo Rentboy to Obi-Wan v Vader Round 3, the Battle of Barren Rock. Fatal lightsabers. These jets of sun temperature plasma can actually kill people again. A nice change from...
5 minutes later.
I'm looking for a farm.
5 minutes later.
Revenge does wonders for the will to live.
Athleticism. Manny Jacinto, the guy who plays Kylo Rentboy, looks genuinely threatening, athletic, and dangerous. Compare that to Rosario Dawson, who looks about as threatening as a 44-year-old woman going on 60, who has never had a minute of martial arts training throughout her long life. A sense of danger. The viewer gets the sense that any of the combatants could die. Indeed, most of them do. Over the course of this fight, Kylo Rentboy penetrates so much Jedi that he makes the job the Greenhouse Gang did on Davis look like amateur work. In the Battle of Barren Rock, we knew that neither Obi-Wan nor Vader would die or even be gravely injured. No one was expecting Obi-Wan to lose a hand. There were remedies for this. For example, Obi-Wan could be traveling with a fellow Jedi fugitive. The fugitive fights an Inquisitor that goes down to Barren Rock with Vader, and the finale cuts between the two climactic lightsaber duels. The viewer is more invested because although we know the outcome of Obi-Wan v Vader 2, we don't know the outcome of Fugitive v Inquisitor. Cutting between Obi-Wan v Vader 3 and Fugitive v Inquisitor would also have been an improvement on cutting between the Battle of Barren Rock and the Battle of Moisture Farm. Followed by additional cuts of Reva chasing Luke through the second most appallingly lit soundstage in the history of film. Outdone only by the Battle of the Long Night, from the season of television whose very name despoils the flesh of the innocent.
She is my queen.
In The Acolyte, because the series is using all new characters in a new setting with a new story, we have no idea what will happen in the jungle lightsaber battle. It seems obvious that a story should have a new setting and characters, so the audience doesn't know the outcome in advance, but Disney have been so reluctant to leave the Skywalker era that Star Wars fans have rarely gotten that. We all knew what would happen at the end of Rogue One. We know what Cassian Andor's ultimate fate will be in Andor. We knew that Han Solo was going to team up with Chewie and Lando in Solo, and that he would get the Millennium Falcon in the end, and we all knew that somehow Palpatine would return.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Before I move on, I just want to comment on how completely Solo has been culturally memory holed. $330 million spent to create what has become easily the most forgotten Star Wars project of all time. I tell you what though, I rewatched Solo recently, and actually that movie is fucking terrible. It deserves to be forgotten. How dare Disney threaten us with a Lando Disney Plus series after that travesty?
There, that's better.
The Acolyte's fight choreographers are at least trying to be innovative in the jungle lightsaber battle. They introduced new moves: the Force Pull Saber Skewer, the Boomerang, the Saber Headbutt, the Saber Parry, the triple penetration. A move not seen since Davis got pounded harder than a... Some of these innovations land, some don't. Some work as cool moves in isolation but create canonical problems. The saber skewer is a cool move, but it makes the Jedi look like moronic weaklings. Can they really not resist a force pull when their life literally depends on it? Can they not parry Kylo Rentboy's lightsaber out of the way with their own lightsaber as they are being pulled toward it? The boomerang is a great move, and in fact has canon precedent. Here's the same move from the 1994 Super Nintendo masterpiece, Super Return of the Jedi. The execution of the boomerang move is weak because the trees the saber cuts fall in the wrong direction, away from the natural slant of the trunk. But the biggest problem with the move is that it's used at the wrong time. Kylo Rentboy uses it to try to kill Bart, but why? He's not trying to kill Bart. He wants to use her to manipulate Hugo, and possibly wants Bart as an apprentice. The boomerang should have been used on a group of Jedi as they were all charging Kylo Rentboy. The saber kills one Jedi on the first pass, and he pulls it through another on the second pass. This would have adhered to the rule of cool, and spurred the choreographers from trying to concoct a fight in which Kylo Rentboy takes on 6 Jedi at once, which makes him appear overpowered and the Jedi appear underpowered, and inevitably creates opportunities for a kill strike which the Jedi don't take because the script needs them to die. In fact, the entire lightsaber battle in episode 5 is a mess. When I say the lightsaber choreography in the Acolyte is good, I don't mean the battle itself is good. It's entertaining, but falls to pieces because the plot of the episode is so shit and contains many plot holes. For example, at the start of the episode, where the fuck is Jedi and Qui-Gon Jinn? Yord gets sliced across the leg. That's a major injury that should take him out of the action completely, but minutes later the script forgets about his injury and he's running around with no indication of having just been sliced in the thigh by a fucking lightsaber. When Kylo Rentboy boomerangs his saber through the trees, Yord is far behind him, but shows up in front of him at the end of the path through the trees, suggesting that Yord, who has a lightsaber wound on his thigh, ran around Kylo Rentboy in a big semicircle through the forest faster than Kylo Rentboy could run in a straight line through a clear path. Characters frequently appear out of nowhere, and the Force only comes into play when the script wants it to come into play. The lightsaber choreography does not aid the script, it survives the script. The fight choreographers were handed a turd and told to polish it to a golden sheen. They did their best and they deserve credit for their work. The most controversial innovation is the use of cortosis. The idea of introducing cortosis into Disney Star Wars canon in itself is fine. It creates potential for dramatic setups, payoffs, and conflict. Kylo Rentboy will want more of this useful, valuable metal. Perhaps he can send Hugo off to get it for him, but the audience does not yet know what the function of this rare precious metal is, which creates mystery. Its utility is finally revealed when Rentboy takes on Master Wookiee in an awesome one-on-one lightsaber duel. Instead of this kind of compelling setup and payoff, the writers just have Kylo Rentboy show up wearing the cortosis and headbutt a lightsaber. Of course, the problem with the introduction of cortosis is that it elicits the following questions. Why didn't the Sith use this metal in the prequels? Why has Kylo Rentboy made only a mask and a bracelet out of this material? Why not a full gimp suit? How did Kylo Rentboy know about this material? Where did he get it from? How did he refine it? Does the bracelet and gimp mask perhaps belong to his former master? If so, who? Of course, Leslie Headland had no intention of even addressing any of these questions or of exploring the possibilities raised by the introduction of cortosis. It looks cool and can do cool shit to lightsabers, so it's in, and no prior explanation of its properties will be required. If you object, please see Karen Green from HR, fill out Schedule B. You should receive a demeaning insult in 6 to 8 weeks informing you of your racial and sexual prejudices. The best aspect of this jungle lightsaber fight is that characters actually die. Characters not dying has become a cliche in modern Hollywood trash. In the Reva show featuring Obi Wan Kenobi, Reva didn't die after being stabbed through the spine by Darth Vader, and Obi Wan didn't kill her after she attempted to murder Luke Skywalker, because he's a pussy now, and because Kathleen Kennedy wanted a spin-off show. The Reva show not featuring Obi Wan Kenobi.
You know what we should all do? Go see a musical.
At the end of Shazam 2, the main kid, I have no idea what he's called, dies. When I first endured Shazam 2 as prep for my Razzies livestream, I knew the character wasn't really dead. Even when they had his funeral, I knew this sewage puddle of a superhero movie would never do anything as daring as kill off a main character or any character of even minor importance to the franchise. And sure enough, Wonder Woman shows up and somehow Palpatine returns Zachary Levi back to life. By the way, Zachary Levi was fucking dreadful in that movie. He was supposed to be playing an 18-year-old and he acted like an 11-year-old. It was an annoying one-note performance. Helen Mirren was even worse. Her ridiculous fucking Botox face. Another time. Endgame infamously brought everyone back to life, but it did kill Tony Stark, who will almost certainly be brought back to life for a future movie because wouldn't you know it, Ironheart, the character whose first major action in the MCU was to attack a police roadblock.
3, 2, 1.
Yeah, she wasn't quite as popular an iteration of Iron Man as Iron Man.
I am Iron Man.
But who knows, perhaps audiences will warm to Ironheart when she pops up in The Young Avengers, a surefire smash if ever there was one. And recently, Wolverine was brought back for Deadpool and Wolverine. Sabine didn't die when she was stabbed with a lightsaber, neither did the Grand Inquisitor. Boba Fett was dragged kicking and screaming out of his place of final rest to be humiliated in the debacle of Boba Fett.
Like a panther.
Chewie didn't really die in The Rise of Palpatine. C-3PO didn't have his memories wiped as had been feared. Darth Maul apparently survived being cut in half, although why any man would want to go on living after losing the family jewels is beyond me. Groot had a fake-out death in one of the Guardians movies. Diversity Hire 4638 wasn't really condemned to death in another universe at the end of the Marvels. Neo was resurrected for The Matrix Regurgitated. Colonel Quaritch was brought back in Avatar 2 as a Na'vi clone of himself. Loki turned out to still be alive, as did MODOK, who apparently had a different name when he was killed in Ant-Man 1. Green Goblin was brought back for Spider-Man No Way We'll Ever Stop Milking This Franchise, and most iconically of all,
somehow Palpatine returned.
So when the Acolyte killed off Yord and Jackie, I was genuinely surprised. It was refreshing. I didn't give a shit about either of them. I felt nothing other than mild appreciation when they died, but it was a nice touch and was one of the main reasons that the trash that is The Acolyte Episode 5 was the best episode of the series by far. The main reason it's the best episode is because it's almost all action, which means less dialogue and plot, the two worst aspects of the show. Watching Leslie Headland attempt to write a coherent plot is like watching a blind man try to build a house out of Swiss cheese, and the quality of her dialogue speaks for itself.
I can help you return to yourself. Please choose me. Choose us. We both survived. Don't do this. You did this to yourself.
Even in the revelation of our triumph, we see the depth of our despair.
All other episodes shattered to pieces on impact with Leslie Headland's ideas, dialogue, plot, and lesbian space witches. But episode 5 just about survives with a broken neck because the lightsaber choreography and decent action acted as an airbag, which cushions the episode from the worst ravages of Leslie Headland's diseased mind. And that concludes our not terrible stuff section of the video. But you know what doesn't get included in the not terrible stuff section? Almost the entire show. Which brings us to episode 5 of Drive-By Reviews. The Star Wars Christmas special is better than The Acolyte.
This episode of Drive-By Reviews is sponsored by Despot of Antrim. Support the Despot by becoming a channel member. Thank you to everyone who has joined. Your support of the Despot's tyranny will not go unrewarded when the final victory is achieved.
We will begin our drive-by with a brief but telling anecdote. While riding the subway to work, I was watching the Star Wars Christmas special. By the way, the comments on that video are hilarious, but we'll look at those later. I had to familiarize myself with the great Star Wars trashterpiece because, as you may have noticed, I have been using footage from it in this video to counter the obscenity that is The Acolyte and thus bring balance to the Force. The movie is over an hour and a half long for reasons known only to the Force ghosts of whatever the writers were smoking while while working on the script. While I was bored throughout much of the Christmas special, I admit that this acid trip made flesh under the creative direction of a sentient bag of cocaine is not without its charms and is at times entertaining. While I was watching the Star Wars Christmas special, my phone informed me that episode 7 of The Acolyte had just dropped on Disney+. My immediate reaction to this dire revelation was dread. I was crestfallen because now I had to stop watching the Star Wars Christmas special and watch The Acolyte instead. When I say that The Acolyte makes the Star Wars Christmas special look good, I am not being hyperbolic, I mean it. The Star Wars Christmas special is a superior piece of audio-visual entertainment and storytelling to The Acolyte. Here's one example of its superiority. Chewie gets to his house to celebrate Life Day with his family, but a stormtrooper appears and begins menacing them. Then Han Solo creeps up on the stormtrooper and throws him from this giant treehouse into the forest canopy below, and the Wilhelm scream makes a welcome guest appearance. My immediate thought was that this would create a plot hole. In a coherent plot, the Empire would send stormtroopers to storm the house once they realized the trooper Han Solo killed was missing. But surely, a psychedelic TV movie that features a family of Wookiees ascending into space and walking through a portal to go see Carrie Fisher perform a musical number wouldn't concern itself with such trivialities as a coherent plot. Then this happened.
Calling Officer B4711. Officer B4711. We are unable to reach you on your comlink. Is there a problem? You are instructed to turn on your comlink immediately.
Wait a minute. I think I can handle this.
Is this a report about the missing trooper?
It is, sir. Trooper B4711 was here with 3 other men. They left and he remained. As soon as they had gone, he packed a lot of food from this house and he robbed me blind. Then he took off for the hills.
Very well, we'll send out a search party.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Identification is very important. Helps you maintain contact with the Empire at times like this.
And that is not a Deus Ex Machina. The shop owner's identification was previously shown to be Empire affiliated.
Your identification? Oh, identification, yes, in my pocket there.
Your identification is in order.
And in an earlier scene, the shop owner is shown successfully bribing an Imperial officer with a groomer.
By a considerable...
No, not that kind of groomer. A Wookiee groomer, a hair groomer, a device used to groom one's body.
Besides shaving and hair trimming, it's guaranteed to lift stains off clothing, faces, and hands.
So the shop owner is used to dealing with the Empire. He knows what oil they like to have their palms greased with, what threads to use to spin the right lie. These setups make his resolution of the near miss with the Imperial officer an earned payoff. Compare that with Yord's decision to return to the lightsaber fight at the behest of Osha.
We have to go back. He's gonna kill them all.
Yord had been escorting Osha to the ship on the order of Qui-Gon Jinn, but decides to return to the fray when Osha tells him
he's gonna kill them all.
In all previous episodes, Yord had been shown as an obedient Jedi Knight who is fanatically dedicated to following rules and protocol, but suddenly he decides to disobey a direct order because Osha tells him something he already knows. Yord's decision to go save the day requires setup but has none, which is why it is so jarring and dramatically incorrect. The same is true of Osha's murder of Qui-Gon Jinn in episode 8. The shop owner's Deus Ex Machina at the end of the Christmas special would have come off as unearned if he had just pulled out his ID and used it as a plot device to get rid of Imperial attention. The previous setups that lead up to the Chewie family's salvation was necessary in order to ensure a dramatically satisfying close to the Imperial plotline. The Star Wars Christmas special does setup and payoff better than The Acolyte. It has a more coherent plot than The Acolyte. That aside, the Christmas special is far more entertaining than The Acolyte. When I finish watching an episode of The Acolyte, I feel drained. The show is boring, it's pessimistic, it's downcast, it's revisionist. Your childhood heroes aren't heroes anymore. It's utterly humorless. It's a fucking drag. But when I finished watching the Star Wars Christmas special, I wasn't bored or miserable. I was upbeat. This movie, this fifth dimensional Rubik's Cube on acid, for all its faults, is at least trying to have a good time. It is infused with a massively over-the-top positive energy, like the whole movie is wrapped in a big, warm, ecstasy-induced love buzz. There's crappy comedy sketches, a Wookiee child watching a holographic acrobat performance, and songs which range in quality from cheesy but kind of nice.
We celebrate
one day of peace.
Too ear-rapingly vile.
Just one more rhyme, friend. Yes, it's a crime, friend.
Carrie Fisher is clearly enjoying herself, though obviously for reasons entirely unrelated to the project she's acting in. Harrison Ford could not be more miserable looking if he was paid $17 million and paired up with Phoebe Waller-Bridge and a human rodent.
Glad I could be here.
Mark Hamill looks like a drag performer dressed as Mark Hamill, but his appearance in this anti-masterpiece is at least considerably better than how he looked in his cameo as Luke Skywalker at the end of The Mandalorian Season 2.
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the fuck is that? What is that, Private Pile?
The untapped meme potential of this very special Christmas special is immense. Here's just one example. Chewie gazing directly into the camera near the end with an expression that communicates a mixture of confusion and horror. Let's see what we can do with this. Karen iPhone, roll meme Chew.E.
Power of
And the Boba Fett cartoon was actually pretty good. It was Boba Fett's first appearance in Star Wars, and he has some great lines.
This is all we have, but he's welcome to it.
You are foolish to waste your kindness on this dumb creature. No lower life form is worth going hungry for, friend. I take it you have no love of the Empire.
Compare that line of dialogue.
You are foolish to waste your kindness on this dumb creature. No lower life form is worth going hungry for.
With this.
We're not defined by what we lose. We're defined by what we survive.
May has always been your wound. Maybe Sol brought you here to face her, but maybe he brought you here to face yourself.
Boba Fett is a formidable adversary in this story. He's duplicitous and cunning. He saves Luke and the droids to lure them into a false sense of security so he can lead them to Vader like lambs to the slaughter. And when his treachery is discovered, his escape is ice cold.
Vader's right-hand man. I'm afraid this whole adventure has been an Imperial plot.
We'll meet again, friend.
Trust a droid to get to the bottom of things.
It is truly astonishing to think that a character who started out like this...
We've come in search of a ship that crashed near here.
Maybe I can help you. I am Boba Fett.
...would, through some bizarre twist in the timeline, eventually end up as that.
Yes.
The animation style is a bizarre blend of 70s TV animation and Salvador Dali style surrealism. It's like the animators created a fairly decent animation, then ran it through an LSD filter. It's fucking brilliant.
What happened?
I don't know.
Well, somebody must know something.
And as shit from a bat on cocaine binge crazy as the Star Wars Christmas special is, there are little moments which indicate a real attention to detail. One example being the aforementioned setup and payoff involving the shopkeeper saving the day at the end. Another is in the Boba Fett cartoon. Luke collapses due to the presence of a gas that renders people unconscious. The only way to keep the victims of this gas alive after they have passed out is to hang them upside down. After Chewie hangs Luke up next to Han Solo, Boba Fett says he knows a place in town that sells the medicine to cure victims of upside down gas. So he, Chewie, and the droids head into town to buy the medicine. The shop has a poster advertising the medicine, and on the poster is a woman in her underwear hung upside down in the exact same posture as Luke and Han. The animators included this little detail so the residents of the town in-world would know that this place sold upside down gas medicine. You will not see little world building details like that in the Acolyte. The Acolyte has no world building. It's set in the High Republic era, but after a full season of television, we know nothing about the High Republic. We don't know who is in power, who their rivals are, what the geopolitical state of the galaxy is, where the action is in terms of economic opportunity, what the major factors in the Great Power game are. Nothing. The urban locations are the same backwater shite heap villages that may as well have been copied and pasted from the Book of Boba Fett or The Mandalorian. There is no No gear porn, no interesting new weapons, no era-defining aesthetic, and no life-threatening geological or industrial phenomena, such as the upside-down gas. If I remember correctly, there are 4 musical numbers in the Christmas special. The worst is the Cantina song, which brutalizes John Williams' masterful Cantina jazz masterpiece, and in a dark foreshadowing of modern rap, creates rhyming verse by rhyming the same word at the end of every sentence.
Just one more drop, friend, before we stop, friend. We may not thrive, friend, but we survive, friend.
But the other 3 songs are solid, and Carrie Fisher is a surprisingly good singer. If I get any deeper into musical analysis, I will just end up sending this video off on a 10-minute tangent rant, over the course of which I explain that some early 2000s rock band that were popular at the time were in fact total shite. Like the Kaiser Chiefs. Jesus Christ, man. Don't even fucking get me started on those wankers. I went to see those dickheads when I was working at Oxygen Music Festival in 2008. The singer was hammered and sounded like shit. The Kaiser Chiefs epitomise the complete failure of the 2000s British guitar band revival. Contrived, neo-anthemic, shout rock bollocks that wants to be iconic so desperately that it's actually fucking pathetic. The Kaiser Chiefs should have been chainsawed in half by Marilyn Manson, and then Manson could have explained to the world why it needed to be done.
Marilyn, tell us, why'd you do it?
Why'd I do it? Because I'm Marilyn Manson, the most evil man in America. And because they asked for it, because they all suck, and their music sucks, and I just couldn't take it anymore. And I hope they all go to hell, and that Satan takes his pitchfork and he pokes them in their stupid asses. They all burn forever, because they're all a bunch of rotten posers.
You're goddamn right Satan should poke them in their stupid asses. And I hope that once he's done, he takes them to the greenhouse, and that the greenhouse gang hold them down and fuck. So instead of a rabbit hole rant, I'll just play a song from the Christmas special and a song from the Acolyte and let you decide which production has the better music.
How can we ever lose this minute? From all my life I choose this minute.
My god, is that a black woman I see in Star Wars? I thought powerful Leida was the first black woman in Star Wars, and before her, Charmaine Obaid-Chinoy was the first woman of colour in Star Wars, and before her, Reva was the first woman of colour in Star Wars, and before her, that chick that Boba Fett followed around was the first woman of colour in Star Wars, and before her, Body Positive Horse Archer was the first woman of colour in Star Wars, and before her, Finn was the first black person in Star Wars, and before Finn, it was just a clan rally in a Star Wars skin suit. Now let's get a few thoughts from the Christmas Special's YouTube comments section.
Imagine setting your VCR to record The Incredible Hulk and coming home to this.
Starring Mark Hamill as Ellen DeGeneres.
The holiday special is a pathway to many abilities some would consider unnatural.
Man, I shouldn't have taken those death sticks.
The Acolyte made this look like The Godfather.
Still better than The Acolyte.
Still a million times better than The Acolyte.
I'd rather watch this than The Acolyte.
Could not stand The Acolyte, so came here. Not disappointed.
This is a palate cleanser after The Acolyte.
It's a shame they couldn't have gotten some of these screenwriters to help out The Acolyte.
Mark Hamill looks like he is wearing a Mark Hamill mask.
Before we finish our fond musings on the Star Wars Christmas special, I want to highlight my favourite moment of this magnificent disaster. Carrie Fisher was stoned out of her mind on set while filming her 2 scenes for the special. Watch as, in this scene, our beloved princess attempts to get up from a chair and walk over to a monitor.
You may speak now if you wish.
Mala, it's so good to see you. Happy Life Day.
I miss when actresses were likable.
And that's when we started experiencing a rampage of, I would say, hyper-conservative bigotry and vitriol, prejudice, hatred, and hateful language.
I'm thinking in particular when you fly across that chasm with the handsome hero Luke. How did you feel about that? I mean, I presume you did it, did you? It was you.
It was me. I don't want to brag or anything, you know. No, it was difficult to do.
Rest in peace, Carrie.
You're all clear, kid. Now let's blow this thing and go home. Are you excited?
Episode 6 of The Acolyte, the Miserly Mystery Box Tour, is another slice of our pizza. Qui-Gon Jinn gets in touch with Human Resources about the slaughter of his entire crew, so Karen Green from HR teams up with Mog and makes the brief intergalactic trip over to Kafar to investigate the matter. Meanwhile, Kylo Rentboy brings the unconscious Marie to Birdshit Island, where he tries to impress her. First by showing her a clone he's been working on, who he calls Jake, and who will one day be mistaken by Rey Palpatine for Luke Skywalker. Kylo Rentboy's second but principal tactic in his seduction of Marie is to show her his cock. I can't say that technique ever worked for me when I was out trying to seduce beautiful young women, but God does love a trier, even if the authorities don't. Meanwhile, Marie's wicked sister Lucy has infiltrated Qui-Gon Jinn's ship by impersonating Marie, a dramatic development that Leslie Headland thinks of as a setup for some slapstick comedy, because she has the storytelling acumen of, well, I was going to say the storytelling acumen of a pile of bantha shit frozen in carbonite, but then I realized that no, literally nothing in the galaxy has as poor an understanding of storytelling as Leslie Headland. This screenshot of Super Return of the Jedi is a better storyteller than Leslie Headland. This kamikaze dive in Rogue Squadron is a better storyteller. This video of the Star Wars kid is a better storyteller. This sentient bag of cocaine that wrote the Star Wars Christmas special is a vastly superior storyteller to Leslie Headland. The slapstick fight between Groundhog Day and Lucy is incredibly tonally jarring. Every Jedi is dead with the exception of Qui-Gon Jinn, who is crushed, confused, and trying to call for help. Groundhog Day has just realized that Lucy is an imposter, and Lucy is plotting to murder Qui-Gon Jinn, who is oblivious to her infiltration. We are in the middle of a life and death situation in the aftermath of a horrifyingly tragic event. For the first time in centuries, Jedi have been slaughtered by a Sith. This should be a somber, highly dramatic, edge-of-seat sequence. The audience should feel the weight of these events. Instead, this happens.
Round 1. Fight!
Groundhog Day stamps on Lucy's foot, then runs off. Then product placement fires off his load into Lucy's face. I can't say I ever expected to be in envy of a handheld robot, but here we are. Imagine that Luke, horribly wounded and utterly broken after getting absolutely trashed by Vader at the end of Empire, was put to bed by Leia. Then this happens.
We celebrate a day of peace.
Like Yord, Mog is another low-ranking male who is of so little worth to the women around him that they are unwilling to expend more than a single syllable to call him to heel. It is so obvious what Leslie Headland is doing here. She has gone out of her way to cast the wimpiest, simpiest, dick-limpiest, simpering, whimpering wee weakling she can find and place him next to her wife in an attempt to make her wife look strong by comparison. In a previous video, I referred my cherished viewers to Call Me Chato, who pointed out the following in a video about Ahsoka titled Men Suck at Playing Women.
Women can't do gravitas the way male actors can. When women try to imitate male badass, they just look boring ass. They do this stern thing.
When she was trying to channel the intimidating presence of Clint Eastwood in Ahsoka, Rosario Dawson looked about as threatening as a 44-year-old woman with early onset arthritis. Her slow, stilted movements and strangely motionless face were boring, vaguely comical, and not much else. But she can act. She is at least acting somewhat successfully while failing to elicit a sense of threat. Here's what happens when a woman who cannot act attempts to appear intimidating on screen.
The 4 Jedi stationed on her home planet when she was a child. How odd.
Leslie Headland is a moron, but even she can see that Karen Green from HR is not an imposing presence. In a futile attempt to make Karen Green from HR appear imposing, Leslie has paired her with a snivelling, stuttering, round-shouldered, skinny, lanky, lispy, buck-toothed dweeb who has been given a tall undercut hairstyle to make him look even lankier than he already is. By the way, this is not an attack on our boy Mog here. He clearly acted exactly as he was told to act, and his acting blows Karen Green from HR off the screen, though that is an admittedly modest feat. This is what the Jedi are now.
No, but our team is ready and we depart in 20. The planet's uncharted environment. You don't
need to handle this personally.
I would have little confidence in Mog's capacity to wield his dick in the right direction when he's taking a piss, but the audience are expected to believe that he could wield a lightsaber against an enemy. I can't. Why would you... Karen iPhone, just roll the fucking meme.
Jedi then.
This party's over.
Jedi now.
We depart in 20. Are you joining us on the mission, Master?
In another failed attempt to infuse Karen Green from HR with some intimidation factor, she gets a lightsaber whip. What are the mechanics of this lightsaber whip? Through what technological breakthrough is a plasma beam elasticized? Why would you design a weapon like this? The advantage of a static blade is that it is predictable. The wielder knows where the blade will end up when he, or in the case of fantasy media, she thrusts it. A whip saber could and would go anywhere during a battle. Its trajectory is by nature unpredictable. Such a weapon would ensure friendly fire casualties. The whip saber is completely useless as a melee weapon because it's a friendly fire hazard, and it's useless as a dueling weapon because it's too unwieldy. If the opponent parries the first strike, Karen Green from HR will have to load up for another strike. While she's loading up to lash that whip, her dueling partner can come hard and fast and penetrate her, or if he's particularly eager, he can thrust inside her while she's readying herself for the first lash, thus bringing an end to the encounter prematurely, an outcome which, though satisfying for him, would no doubt be disappointing for Karen Green from HR, who had hoped the climax would come only after many thrusts. And this thing is huge. It takes up far too much space. While on the way into the target, it could get caught on a lamp or a bedside table or a chair. Size isn't everything. In fact, excess of size can hinder penetration, even if the object intended for entry into the target is visually impressive. And that's what is really going on here. Leslie Headland doesn't care that her whip saber is a disastrously badly designed weapon. It looks cool, so it goes in the show.
Excuse me, but I was wondering how locomotion would work with such a weapon. You see, whips work through the transfer of weight and energy from one end to the other. The less weight and energy transferred, the slower the motion of the whip. The weight of a lightsaber blade is almost zero. So how is it even possible that this whip saber would function within known laws of physics?
And once again, this series breaks the Chekhov's lightsaber principle. If you're going to introduce a bizarre new weapon like a whip saber into the show, that weapon must be utilized in battle. It is also necessary that the whip saber be shown in a duel against a lightsaber as a demonstration of its utility. This ridiculous design must be justified in world. The series does none of this. It displays the whip saber in a flashy set piece designed specifically to show it off, and then never uses it again. Oh, and before we move on from this scene, just a quick reminder that Leslie Headland hired her wife to play Karen Green from HR, and her wife acts like this.
One versus many. His power extraordinary, his skills erratic.
The rest of Miserly Mystery Box Tour is just the show teasing mystery boxes and Kylo Rentboy cock teasing Marie. This episode has about as much substance as the atmosphere of space. There are plenty of plot holes and contrivances, but we'll get onto those in the plot holes section. We now move on to the dedicated political section of this video. If you're not interested in the propagandistic aspects of the Acolyte, or like non-playable sheep...
Okay, I must stop you right there. I was enjoying this video until you started talking about woke. Why can't you just review the show without frothing at the mouth about woke garbage? Okay, let's unpack this. The show isn't bad because it's woke, it's bad because of the terrible writing. But instead of addressing the writing issues, you just scream about lesbians and black women. Oh my god. This is just another one of those anti-woke channels, isn't it? No thanks, I'ma head over to Chris Stuckman's channel and check out his latest videos. At least he doesn't throw a fit every time a person of color comes on screen. Fuck you and your woke bro incel chud subscribers.
As I was saying, if you, like non-playable sheep, are averse to political discourse, if you think that for a video to address the identity politics that the Acolyte is drenched in immediately delegitimizes that video as a critical analysis, now is the time to stop watching. I thank you for watching thus far and hope you enjoy Chris Stuckman's review of The Reva Show featuring Obi Wan Kenobi.
The thing is, for the past 6 weeks, I have thoroughly enjoyed watching each and every episode of Obi Wan Kenobi.
The Acolyte contains the following propagandistic elements. Karen iPhone, hit it. Empowered female characters and emasculated male characters. Female characters are placed in positions of authority and portrayed as assertive, physically strong, and in charge, and most importantly, displaying their dominance over the male characters beneath them. The competence and general proficiency of the female characters is emphasized by the bumbling incompetence of the useless men buzzing around them. Karen Green from HR puts Qui-Gon Jinn in his place on multiple occasions, and she later bosses Mog around like he's a whimpering dog. While on Kafar, a giant bug attacks, Mog fumbles around with his lightsaber like a clumsy idiot, but the strong, in charge, and powerful Karen Green from HR pulls out her whip saber and without batting an eye, slices the attacking creature in two. A similar plot beat occurs on Mansondani in episode 7. Qui-Gon Jinn and Padawan Yes are getting their asses handed to them by the Lesbiene Gesserit, who have taken control of the male Jedi Wookiee Kalnaka. Trinity arrives to take control of the situation. She downs Kalnaka with her first move, and through her mastery of the same powerful force technique used by Palpatine to resurrect himself, somehow, she kills all the Lesbiene Gesserit witches. Later, Trinity chastises the idiot men for their fuck-up. This was all their fault. If they had listened to Trinity from the start, the slaughter of the Lesbiene Gesserit would have been avoided. Jackie demeans Yord on at least 2 occasions, and never, at any point in the series, shows any respect for his position as a Jedi Knight. Yord runs away from the lightsaber battle on the incompetent command of Qui-Gon Jinn, but returns because Bart convinces him to do so. He runs back to the fight, has his neck snapped like a twig at first contact with the enemy, and is tossed aside like the worthless piece of man shit that he is. Jackie, on the other hand, fights magnificently, putting in what is by far the best showing against Kylo Rentboy. She dies heroically. Similarly, Trinity was allowed to go down fighting against May in episode 1 and was only overcome due to her excess of concern for the innocent, a weakness May was able to exploit. But Master Yes does not get to fight. He gets Canadian healthcare. Intersectional feminist fantasy. The Lesbiene Gesserit are able to form a communist lesbocracy, highly diverse utopian matriarchy after they liberate themselves from the oppressive presence of men. They are also able to procreate in the absence of men. This lesbian paradise is, as previously suggested, a socio-sexual fantasy of Leslie Headland. The utopia is destroyed by the invasive intrusion of men. Trinity is entirely faultless for the mass slaughter of the lesbian witches. The incident was catalyzed by Qui-Gon Jinn's aggressive demands for access to Louis XIV and Philippe, and Padawan Yes's bitchy homesickness and insubordination. By the time Trinity arrives on scene during this disastrous shitshow, she is too late to stop the idiot men from wreaking their destruction upon the mostly peaceful victims of Jedi brutality. Negative portrayal of white men.
The few white men
there are in the Acolyte are given tiny roles. 2 criminals, a crappy lightsaber fighting coach, a generic Jedi in Backwater Village 2, Jedi Master Yes, and Mog. Jedi Master Yes is portrayed as a whingy wee bitch who fucks everything up on Mansondani because all he wants is to go home, and he views Louis XIV and Philippe as their ticket home. He later drinks poison because a strong, powerful black woman told him to. Mog is, well, Mog. Leslie Headland wanted to exclude white men from her project to the fullest extent possible as a demonstration of how inclusive it is. The few whose presence she condescends to suffer are barely in the show, and it is made crystal clear that these few white men are some combination of evil, selfish, stupid, incompetent, and Mog. Schrödinger's feminism. The space lesbians are simultaneously strong and powerful.
She's a powerful leader.
And oppressed.
The galaxy is not a place that welcomes women like us.
And innocent victims of Jedi brutality. Karen Green from HR is simultaneously a girl boss, high-powered corporate feminist CEO who regularly appears on Forbes' list of most powerful women, and a leading member of the Jedi Order, which is a patriarchal force of oppression following Leslie Headland's revisionist update. Karen Green from HR is to be simultaneously admired as a girl boss and condemned as a Jedi. Postmodern recontextualization of good and evil.
This isn't about good or bad. This is about power. And who is allowed to use it?
The Sith are no longer a power-hungry order of evil murderers bent on galactic domination. They are an oppressed group hunted by the Jedi. The Jedi are no longer a force of good in the galaxy. They are a morally grey force of oppression. They are also fat, undisciplined, suicidal, incompetent, murderous, bumbling, weak, corrupt, stupid, and Mog. Feminism telling on itself. This was very evident in Barbie. When men were behaving in a manner that feminism disapproves of, that is, in a masculine manner, they were vilified, but were also respected, happy, propertied, and had high social status. When men were behaving in a manner that feminism approves of, that is, in a weak and emasculated manner, they were tolerated, but were also despised, ignored, homeless, and treated as less than filth by the women. In this way, feminism tells on itself. When a man acts like a man, feminism despises him and screeches at him that he must check his male privilege and update his behavior for a modern audience. When men follow this advice, feminism despises them for their weakness, deprives them of sex, and holds them in utter contempt. Kylo Rentboy is the only masculine man in the Acolyte. This is because he is a murderous villain, and feminism thinks of masculinity as a villainous trait. However, he is also the only character in the show that gets so much as a sideways glance from a woman. Kylo Rentboy is the only character that receives any real respect from a female character. Both Bart and Hugo have a love-hate relationship with him, but both are drawn to his charismatic, masculine energy. Kylo Rentboy behaves in a manner feminism has zero tolerance for. As a result, he is the only male character in the show with anything approaching status and the prospect of one day having sex with a woman. We need only one word to describe how the Acolyte treats the male characters that behave in a manner that feminism deems befitting of men. Mog. The most obvious political aspect of the Acolyte is that it is a DEI showcase. The creator, lead writer, and showrunner is an intersectional feminist lesbian. The star of the series, Amanda Stenberg, is a self-described intersectional feminist and has applied many sexual labels to herself, which come and go in accordance with seasonal fashions. I couldn't be bothered looking up what they are. Karen Green from HR is played by Leslie Headland's wife, an intersectional lesbian feminist and self-described witch. Yes, really. Powerful Lita is played by this person.
Yes, yes.
The series features a coven of lesbian witches, lesbian force IVF, and a loving lesbian relationship. Heterosexuality makes only one brief appearance in the show and is portrayed as a tool of dark side seduction deployed by Kylo Rentboy to turn Osha evil. All the other men are sexless, and Mog is Mog. The series is cast with DEI in mind. As few white men as possible, as many strong, powerful female characters as possible, lesbians, witches, both in the script and in the cast, and enough minority representation to put an NHS waiting room to shame. Anti-white firstism, the attribution of historical firsts to anyone other than a white man, or the insertion of women and so-called minorities into these historical firsts as a means of diminishing the perception that they are white male achievements. You may have heard the modern myth that the light bulb was not invented by Thomas Edison, but by a black guy. Flight was not invented by the Wright brothers because some Arab guy in the 9th century or something strapped a giant pair of wings to himself, jumped off a building, crash landed, and broke his back. So yeah, Arabs invented flight apparently, not Europeans. A 2016 movie called Hidden Figures revealed to the world that the first man on the moon was in fact 3 black women who went on to found a colony on Mars and established a Type 2 interstellar civilization in the Andromeda galaxy. The Woman King taught us that the abolition of slavery originated not in England, but in some backwater slave trading empire in West Africa. The Acolyte teaches Star Wars fans that the first Force Immaculate Conception was not the impregnation of Shmi Skywalker with her son Anakin, but in fact came about 100 years prior due to the interaction of a very horny She-Bowser, powerful Lita, and some strap-on Force IVF.
Yes, yes.
Take that, Anakin, you third-rate white mediocrity, you imitator. The Acolyte is not a Star Wars series. It is a political project wrapped in a Star Wars skin suit. Now, plot holes. The Acolyte has the highest plot hole to runtime ratio of any piece of media I have ever seen. So this is going to be a long section that will stand as a testament to just how completely broken the Acolyte is, but I will do my best not to go into too much depth on the plot holes so that we're not still here when the universe experiences hate death and Kathleen Kennedy announces an origin story movie for that bat creature that ordered a drink at the Mos Eisley Cantina. Karen, iPhone, hit it. Our first plot hole comes with the first character interaction in The Acolyte. Why does Pat offer money in exchange for the location of Trinity to literally the first sentient creature she comes across in Backwater Village 1? Surely this would make her stand out. The creature may also give her false information or send her off on a wild goose hunt, then run to inform Trinity that a devious-looking assassin has come looking for her. The creature may even expect payment from Trinity for this assistance. How did Leslie Headland's computer not self-destruct when she wrote the line,
"Attack me with all your strength"?
No computer has a cringe filter that strong.
Jedi do not attack the unarmed.
No, but they do unarm the attackers. Except when the attacker has just killed a bunch of Jedi, but more on that later. Why doesn't Trinity take advantage of the many opportunities she has to kill, wound, disable, or otherwise subdue Pat? Pat has shown herself to be a lethal threat to the innocents in the bar. Not putting her down is a dereliction of Trinity's duty as a Jedi.
A Jedi doesn't pull her weapon unless prepared to kill.
What the fuck are you talking about, man? They pull them out all the time to train, and they frequently use them as a shield against blaster fire. Lethal intent is not required for the use of a lightsaber. Okay, two things. One, why has Halle Bailey not fled the restaurant? A lunatic ran in and started attacking everyone, and Trinity has pulled out a lightsaber. Everyone else has bolted, but Halle Bailey just hangs around cleaning dishes. Two, how does Trinity, a Jedi Master, fall so easily for Pat's obvious diversion tactic? How does Kate have the exact same hairstyle as Pat, one that requires a lot of effort to style and maintain? Kate thinks her evil sister Pat died 16 years ago in a fire. The notion that both twins would have the exact same hairstyle is beyond absurd. How do Kate and Pat have the same accent? They were separated from each other at the age of 8. Kate was raised on Coruscant in high society. Pat was raised God knows where. Their accents would be markedly different. Fires in space. Yeah, no problems here. Why does Yord not use the Force to read Kate's mind and thus verify her claim that she did not murder Trinity minutes before he read the Trade Federation squid's mind? Why does Yord give Kate a summary of her life when everyone in the room already knows all the information contained therein? Why do the Jedi regard the word of Halle Bailey as sufficient evidence to arrest Kate? Halle Bailey is an alien who probably has difficulty visually distinguishing individual humans from one another. Why don't the Jedi check the ship's security cameras and logs to see if Kate was on the ship yesterday? Why don't they ask her for her alibi, then investigate the alibi? Why does Kate not volunteer an alibi? Why don't the Jedi interview the ship's crew in order to ascertain Kate's whereabouts at the time of the murder? Why do they not ask Kate what ship she used to fly to Backwater Village 1, murder Trinity, then fly back to the Trade Federation ship? If such a passenger ship exists in or on the hull of the Federation ship, why do the Jedi not check that passenger ship's logs? In fact, why don't they carry out any sort of investigation at all? When did the Jedi Order ban white males from entry into their ranks? Why has Karen Green from HR painted herself green? Is she planning to go to a cosplay on her lunch break? Why is Kate being transported on a droid prisoner ship? Yord and his Padawan had her in custody. This means that they took her to a droid ship bound for Coruscant, then returned to their own ship and headed to Coruscant. Why did they not simply take Kate with them? Karen Green from HR just told Qui-Gon Jinn that if word got out that a former Jedi trainee had killed a Master Jedi, it would cause political problems for the Jedi. So why are they sending this valuable Jedi-trained prisoner who, as far as they know, just killed a Jedi Master on a droid ship guarded by a single crappy droid guard? The escape plan, directed by Nefarious White Criminal, is to take out the droids, then jump in the escape pod and flee. But why? If you take out the droids, then you have control of the ship, so why not just pilot the ship to wherever it is you want to go? White Criminal says,
So you'd rather leave your fate to the Jedi?
This suggests that the Jedi arrested all these people. Did it not occur to the Jedi that RoboCop might be able to hack the droids on the ship, or that Dickhead might be able to use the massive dick that protrudes from his head to disable the guard droid? Why are the Jedi in this show so shit? The ease of overcoming the droid staff is an obvious problem with this form of prisoner transfer transfer, and yet only now, after presumably many years of service, has a group of criminals had the perceptive genius to notice this flaw and exploit it, and our hero, Kate, just happened to be on the ship when they did. Why can't Kate use the Force to grab product placement? She's been trained as a Jedi. I know she dropped out, but she couldn't have been that bad. I mean, she is the product of a Force Virgins, which makes her extremely powerful. The first thing cowardly white criminal does when Kate gets the xenomorph off his face is to run to the escape pod and take off without her, like the cowardly white criminal that he is. But how did he know the ship was in peril? How did he know how to operate the escape pod? How was he able to come to his senses so quickly after being unconscious and in a xenomorph-induced wet dream? Why has Jackie painted herself white and orange? Is she going to the cosplay event with Karen Green from HR? Qui-Gon Jinn is able to get the truth out of cowardly white criminal in seconds by using the Force to read his mind. Why did Yord not at least attempt this on Kate earlier? Karen Green from HR initially refuses Qui-Gon Jinn's request to go see Kate.
I'm afraid I cannot afford to lose you to a field mission, Saul.
But then agrees to let Qui-Gon Jinn go after only a single line of protest from him. Why does the show do the twin reveal in a dream vision and not in a manner that is even slightly dramatically compelling? When the Jedi arrive on Hoth, Kate still hasn't left the crash site, despite only taking one bag with her when she does. How long did it take the Jedi to get to Hoth? How long was Kate unconscious? Kate's ship crashed, and in the time that it took her to wake up and pack a bag, the Jedi found out about the crash, put together a search party, flew to Hoth, and arrived at the crash site before Kate could walk away from the wreck. Kate runs away from the Jedi, but what is her plan? She's on Hoth in the middle of a snowstorm. This seems to be an uninhabited region, if not an uninhabited planet. If she does escape the Jedi, what will she eat? How will she shelter herself? How will she get off the planet long term? Why does Yord pull out his lightsaber in the cave and use it as a light? I thought a Jedi doesn't pull out her weapon unless prepared to kill. When Kate asserts that Pat is alive,
May is alive.
Qui-Gon immediately responds with, I believe you. But what? Minutes ago, he asserted that
May is dead. I saw her die.
In fairness, he could just be saying this to get Kate safely into custody, but we later learned that no, he really does believe her. In episode 4, he tells Karen Green from HR,
But I saw her fall. No one could have survived that.
At the end of the episode, Kylo Rentboy says,
If you attack a Jedi with a weapon, you will fail.
This contradicts Pat's success in killing Trinity only a couple of days prior, and Rentboy's own actions later on when he slaughters 6 or 7 Jedi with a weapon. Kylo Rentboy ignites his lightsaber in a show of force after expounding on the futility of weapons. Perhaps he is compensating for an unspecified insufficiency in the presence of a hot girl. My advice to him is don't worry about it, son. It could be far worse. You could be Darth Maul's upper half. That concludes episode 1 of The Acolyte, written and directed by Leslie Headland. Episode 2, we open in Backwater Village 2. Why does Frida need to enlist the help of a local child to distract the Jedi Temple security monitor so she can throw a disabling device on it? Why not just throw the disabling device on it to begin with? Why does this Jedi just casually walk past the masked stranger without considering that perhaps this masked stranger might be up to no good? Why does Frida try to girlboss her way through Master Yes's literal force field? Why does she think that knives would work when kicks and punches have not? Wait, there's a giant hole in the roof above Master Yes. Why didn't Frida know about this? Did she not bother to case the Jedi Temple before going in? The Jedi know there has been a break-in at the temple, yet they don't increase security by posting someone on the roof to make sure no one climbs in the giant fucking hole in the building. Are you seriously telling me that there was an unsecured roof with a clear line of sight to the target and the assassin was allowed to climb on top of that roof? Surely an elite force like the Jedi could not be this incompetent. This has to be a conspiracy. The Jedi need to be investigated. Generic Jedi explains to Qui-Gon Jinn and co that a break-in occurred the previous night. The previous night, Qui-Gon and co were on Hoth, so they found out about the break-in when they were on Hoth, got all the way from Hoth to Backwater Village 2 on Olega, and got to the Jedi Temple before Frida was even able to have another crack at Jedi Master Yes. Once again, video game warping in place of real in-world travel mechanics. Ham Rolo shows up threatening to eat a small child. Why has no one provided him with a selection of sauces to make this meal more palatable? Master Yes opens his eyes. Looks at Frida and says,
I've been waiting for you, mate.
If you've been waiting for her, then why didn't you tell her this the first time she came knocking at your force bubble? Master Yes says,
Forgive me. We thought we were doing the right thing.
Forgive you for what? You didn't do anything wrong. It was Qui-Gon Jinn who took out powerful leader with a brutality.
Fight. Impressive. Finish her! Brutality. Well done. Flawless victory.
And Trinity killed all the other Lesbiene Gesserit witches by breaking their Wi-Fi connection to Kalnaka. All Master Yes did was pull out his lightsaber and defend himself, then get mauled by Kalnaka under the control of the Lesbiene Gesserit hags. And the subsequent guilt Master Yes feels for the crime of defending himself has caused him to sink into a mire of decade-long suicidal depression. Why? He did nothing wrong. When the crew are planning how to approach the apothecary who they suspect of concocting the poison used to administer Master Yes's Canadian healthcare treatment, Yord suggests they go in, arrest him, stun him if necessary, and take him back to the ship for questioning. A sound plan. Jackie rudely retorts with an unsound plan. Send in Maria to pose as Frida, which will fool the apothecary into admitting his guilt. But Maria is not qualified for this. She's a civilian, not a Jedi. What if Frida is in the building when Maria walks in? The apothecary would know Maria was an imposter. What if the apothecary and Frida communicate in a foreign language? The apothecary would get suspicious when Maria starts speaking basic and can't even understand his replies in the foreign language. Bear in mind, the Jedi don't even know what Frida looks like. She could have face tattoos and bleached blonde hair, or a scar, or a broken tooth. This plan is terrible.
Seems like the most logical way.
We will follow your plan, Padawan. It's a good one.
Yord's plan is solid. Jackie's plan is disastrously ill-conceived, but Qui-Gon Jinn goes with Jackie's plan because the script is a moron. Why can't any of the Jedi sense the dark side of the Force around Kylo Rentboy? They may not be able to identify him as a Sith. After all, the dark side clouds everything, but they should at least be able to pick up on the presence of the dark side in his general vicinity. When he's surveying the building, Qui-Gon Jinn should say something like, "I sense an imbalance in the Force." Then Yord says, "Master, when you speak of imbalance, I assume you refer to the—"
Shut up, Yord. If you knew the first thing about balance, you'd wear a dead rat around your neck to balance out the sight of that pile of dog shit on your head.
Why do the Jedi believe anything Kylo Rentboy says? He's just admitted to being involved in the murder of a Jedi. Arrest him and send him back to Coruscant for questioning. Or how about this? Read his fucking mind with a Jedi mind read, just like you did with Cowardly White Criminal, just like you will do a couple of hours from now to Frida. Why does Qui-Gon Jinn toy with Frida when she attacks him? She's evil. She's a murderer. Kill her, wound her, or subdue her. He has many opportunities to do this and does not take any of them. This is the same hole as the one torn in the plot by the fight with Trinity. Yord was overlooking the scene from a platform only a few meters above the courtyard. He's even able to force pull a knife from Frida. Why didn't he intervene at any point to stop this assassination attempt prior to the knife pull? Do they seriously expect us to believe that Yord, a trained Jedi, stood on this platform where he had a clear line of sight on the assassin and let her assassination attempt go forward without intervening at any point, despite having several minutes to do so? This stinks of conspiracy. The Jedi should be investigated. Yord and Qui-Gon Jinn could easily combine their force powers to subdue Frida when they have her cornered. Why don't they? When Qui-Gon Jinn contacts Karen Green from HR, requesting permission to go warn Kalnaka, Karen Green from HR refuses on the grounds that
we don't make decisions like this without meaningful discussion, Soul.
So Karen Green from HR is putting Kalnaka's life at risk in order to follow petty protocol. But earlier, Karen Green from HR gave Qui-Gon Jinn on-the-spot permission to go seek Kate when her ship crash landed on Hoth. No meaningful discussion was needed then. This completely contradicts her assertion that
we don't make decisions like this without meaningful discussion, Soul.
And sure enough, Karen Green from HR's hesitation to send Qui-Gon Jinn to warn Kalnaka does indeed result in Kalnaka's death, an act of gross negligence for which there will be no consequences. A woman at the head of a powerful security force makes an irredeemable fuck up and an innocent person dies. Why aren't the Jedi being investigated? Why wasn't Karen Green from HR fired immediately? Episode 3, The Lesbiene Gesserit of Manson Dani. Philip tells Louis XIV to let go of a butterfly after Louis XIV force grabs it.
Let it go, May.
But Philippe force-grabbed the same butterfly only a few seconds ago. She-Bowser is adamant that the girls must not leave the fortress for their own safety. She speaks as if this is a habitual rule, not a sudden imposition brought on by the presence of the Jedi. So what is it that She-Bowser wants to keep the girls safe from? This is an uninhabited planet. Are there dangerous predators? No, not that predator. An animal predator, like a forest crocodile or something. Is there upside-down gas excreted by fungus that renders its victims unconscious? Perhaps one of the lesbian witches was driven mad by the absence of men and ran off into the forest with nothing but a bag of supplies and a dildo she stole from powerful Lita and She-Bowser's room. Some say she's still out there, dolling herself up every evening and wandering the forests alone, crying out for her long-lost love that never was.
It was not your fault but mine. It was your heart on the line.
Why is powerful Lita giving a presentation about the Lesbiene Gesserit understanding of the Force to other lesbian witches? Surely everyone in the room already knows all of this. Powerful Lita says,
The thread is not a power you wield.
Then, several seconds later, proceeds to wield it as a power. We get a brief glimpse in this shot of a part of the generator the mining crew left behind. Why did they leave valuable equipment behind when they finished their mining operation?
The galaxy is not a place that welcomes women like us.
Really? The entire galaxy, all however many million planets of the galaxy, have the same sectarian policy toward the Lesbiene Gesserit. When the production crew was filming the lesbian dance theory ritual, how did the entire cast and crew not die from cringe? No cringe shield can repel cringe power of that magnitude. Who exactly is Reverend Mother Scrotum Face? She seems to be a wise elder of some sort, but no one defers to her or asks her advice. Philippe is hesitant about becoming a Jedi because she has been told that if she does become a Jedi, she will never see her family again. But this series repeatedly shows Jedi going from Coruscant to other Outer Rim planets in a couple of hours. Qui-Gon Jinn and his crew get from Coruscant to Hoth in no more than 3 hours. It takes them even less time to get from Hoth to Ueda. It takes Karen Green from HR 1 hour in-world to get from Coruscant to Kafar. In the final episode, she makes the trip from Coruscant to this very planet, Mansondani, in the space of maybe an hour. I've had jobs that took me longer to get to than the amount of time it takes Karen Green from HR to get from Coruscant to Mansondani. But in episode 3, the script changes its mind about how fast interstellar travel is, and now Coruscant is so far from this Outer Rim planet that if Philippe becomes a Jedi, she will never see her family again. Why does Louis XIV start a fire? Why does stone burn? Why is stone highly flammable? How has this fire spread across and through stone to reach the generator core in approximately 1 minute? Episode 4, a slow walk through the forest. Why is this lightsaber coach so shit? His lesson consists of:
keep each movement tight yet subtle. Diminish areas of vulnerability. Maximize your defenses without need to strike.
Maximize your defenses without the need to strike. Diminish areas of vulnerability. He's not actually instructing them in any useful technique. He's restating the fundamental theory that underlies fighting technique. For example, if I was giving these Padawans a boxing lesson, I wouldn't say, strike your opponent in a manner that diminishes the opponent's ability to counter. I would say, jab your opponent in the forehead so his neck snaps back. This will disorient him, making it harder for him to land a counter shot. Then I would have them practice this shot on each other and correct their mistakes. Why is Ki-Adi Mundi here? This breaks timeline canon. Why did Wikipedia hire Orwell's Ministry of Truth to eradicate all evidence that Ki-Adi Mundi hadn't been born as of the events depicted in the Acolyte, and edit the Ki-Adi Mundi article to conform with the broken canon of Disney Star Wars? During this meeting, the Jedi discuss the capabilities of the assassin, speculating that she has received Jedi training. One of the Jedi suggests,
"We must alert the High Council."
But Karen Green from HR retorts,
"A scandal like this would inspire fear and mistrust. We should handle this ourselves."
2 Jedi Masters have been murdered, the assassin is still at large, and her next likely target is known, and the Jedi Council are not yet aware of any of this. In episode 1, White Criminal asks Kate,
"Is it true you killed a Jedi?"
So common criminals know about the assassination of a Master Jedi, but the Jedi High Council doesn't know about it. Karen Green from HR insists that the Jedi Council not be told because she fears what her HR department would refer to as bad optics. So Karen Green from HR is unilaterally deciding what vital intelligence should and should not be passed on to the council based on her subjective political interpretation of events. This goes far beyond dereliction of duty. This is flat out corruption. Note also that this room has 11 Jedi in it. Not one of them a white man, but I digress. When Karen Green from HR insists that the murder of 2 Jedi Masters by a force-wielding assassin be kept from the Jedi Council, she is turning the other 10 Jedi in the room into co-conspirators in a conspiracy to keep vital intelligence from their superiors and from the broader public. The Jedi in the room would recognize that she is attempting to form an information suppression conspiracy and would immediately inform the council of her crimes and of the Jedi assassinations. And Karen Green from HR's plan to keep the Jedi Council in the dark regarding the assassinations won't work. A conspiracy of 11 people will collapse faster than a young actress after consuming a drink handed to her by Leslie Headland at an audition for a Harvey Weinstein production. Karen Green is an information-suppressing conspirator, a corrupt, self-appointed intelligence gatekeeper. She has committed dereliction of duty to the Jedi Council, and her incompetence has led to the death of Kalnaka. How is this woman head of the Jedi HR department? Clearly, DEI has done extensive damage to the Jedi Order. Perhaps that open roof the assassin used earlier can be explained by the obscene incompetence created by this DEI hiring. I demand a thorough investigation into the Jedi's DEI practices, as well as any possible complicity they might have had in the assassination plot. Oh, and Kiari-Mundi is now a conspiratorial criminal guilty of suppression of vital intelligence, despite the conspiracy predating his birth. So I guess Leslie Headland did find a way to destroy an OG character after all. Well done, Leslie. Why did the Jedi insist on bringing Max to Kafar? She was useless to them in Backwater Village 2, and Steve has shown herself to be a dangerous enemy. All they are doing by dragging Max along is slowing down the expedition and putting Max's life in danger. Keep her on Coruscant, go apprehend Steve, bring Steve back to Coruscant, and use Max as a tool to ease the extraction of information from Steve, assuming the Jedi mind read doesn't work on her. Why does Yord insist that Max hand the blaster over to him? This is her only means of protection. Why does he cease his attempt to seize the blaster due to a brief interruption? While walking through the forest, the Jedi are attacked by a giant flying insect attracted to the light of Qui-Gon Jinn's lightsaber. Keep that in mind. Kylo Rentboy in disguise is wearing a cozy blankie while running through a tropical forest. Why hasn't he collapsed from heat exhaustion? When Luke was training on Dagobah, he wore a tank top because it was really fucking hot. All the Jedi are wearing multiple layers of robes. Max is wearing what looks like a thermal suit designed for the climate of Hoth. Steve is wearing fucking chainmail. When I say the Acolyte is preposterously bad, this is what I mean. It's bad in a way that only a DEI project where men on set are afraid to speak up can be. Clearly, the culture at Lucasfilm has become so oppressive that no one is willing to point out the obvious nonsense in the productions. Fires don't burn in space. People don't wear thermal suits in a tropical jungle. Maybe it's not a good idea to have Kylo Rentboy flashing OSHA. You can't get from Coruscant to a backwater outer rim planet in an hour. Steve suddenly decides that I'm good because her sister is alive. This makes no sense. In such a situation, Steve would not think, oh, Max is alive. This is a reason for me to be good. I guess I'll stop being evil. Steve would think, hey, Max is alive. I must show her the light by teaching her the righteous ways of my master. Evil people don't think of themselves as evil. They think they're the good guys. When that assassin climbed on top of that roof, determined to murder an innocent man, the assassin believed it was the right thing to do. Steve also shares with Kylo Rentboy her plan to turn herself into the Jedi, who will be lenient to her because she will tell them everything she knows. This makes no sense. Minutes earlier, she was relating her hatred of the Jedi.
Can't believe my sister's Jedi scum.
And now she wants to give herself up to the Jedi after murdering 2 Jedi Masters, despite not having any motivation to do so besides, they might go easy on me because trust me, bro. And she doesn't even have any useful intelligence for the Jedi. She doesn't know who her master is, or even what he looks like. And how does a woman who has shown herself fanatically, murderously dedicated to her mission suddenly decide to give up on it because her sister, who she hasn't seen in 16 years, is alive? That has nothing to do with her deeply held beliefs, worldview, or personal long-harbored motivations. I could go on and on about how abysmal this plot beat is, but let's just get on with it. Who the fuck brought a Chekhov's Wookiee to the production? Can someone get him the hell out of here? We need to clear the set for the epic Wookiee versus Sith showdown. When Kylo Rentboy showed up and lit his lightsaber, why didn't Qui-Gon Jinn immediately turn to his teenage Padawan Jackie and tell her to get back to the ship? You know, like how when Maul showed up, Qui-Gon Jinn said,
"We'll handle this."
There are enough Jedi to take on Rentboy without endangering the life of a young Padawan. Episode 5. Why have Jackie and Qui-Gon Jinn disappeared? They were here when Kylo Rentboy attacked, and now they're gone. Why can't irrelevant white male Jedi defend himself from a saber skewer? He just stands there doing nothing, then obediently dies when the script tells him to. Why does Qui-Gon Jinn wait until 4 or 5 Jedi
have been killed
to say,
"Civilian to the ship"?
Should he not have done this as soon as Kylo Rentboy arrived and sent Jackie back to the ship with Bart? How is Yord able to run after receiving a lightsaber wound to the thigh? Why didn't Kylo Rentboy kill Yord immediately after wounding him? Why don't the Jedi remove their bulky robes before getting into a lightsaber fight? This was the first thing that Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi Wan did when they encountered Maul. Why does Qui-Gon Jinn stop attacking Kylo Rentboy when Rentboy retracts his saber? When Jackie screams out, Bart hears it and calls attention to her struggle.
Jackie.
But then Yord responds with,
"Jackie is a Jedi. She can take care of herself."
But she's not a Jedi. She's a Padawan. When Vader saw that Luke had not finished his training in Empire Strikes Back, he remarked,
"The Force is with you, young Skywalker. But you are not a Jedi yet."
After Kylo Rentboy sidekicks Qui-Gon into the dirt, why does he not finish him?
Finish him!
Why haven't any of the flying insects that are attracted to light been attracted by any of the lightsabers yet? After Kylo Rentboy cuts Jackie's lightsaber, why does he not finish her?
Finish her!
Kylo Rentboy decides that Hugo is a traitor and resolves to
finish her!
He tries several times to kill her, but is impeded by Jackie and Qui-Gon Jinn. But wait, he could have killed her at the start of the battle, but chose instead to force throw her to safety, and now he wants to kill her? This makes no sense. Bart convinces Yord to go back by telling him he's gonna kill them all. But could Yord not have figured this out himself when Kylo Rentboy started killing everyone? After Kylo Rentboy performs the triple penetration on Jackie, Qui-Gon Jinn says,
"She was a child."
Then why didn't you get her away from the fight, you useless fucking bint? When asked,
"What do you want?"
Rentboy replies,
"Freedom. The freedom to wield my power the way I like."
But you had freedom. No one was impeding your free movement about the vast galaxy. You could have gone to any one of the many Jedi-free planets and done as you wished there without the Jedi interfering. You could have started your own Sith Academy on Craggy Island and the Jedi wouldn't have done a damn thing about it because they wouldn't have known about it. Yord fails to sneak up on Kylo Rentboy. Why is Yord so shit? Why is he such a mog? Why are the Jedi so shit? Why doesn't Qui-Gon Jinn kill Kylo Rentboy? This guy just killed 7 Jedi. And don't give me that he's unarmed bollocks. He just killed Yord without a weapon. He killed your own apprentice who you referred to as a child. He is an extremely powerful Force user. His body is a weapon. You need to
finish him.
The Jedi do not attack the unarmed.
Fuck this show.
Fuck it!
By letting this man live, you are condemning his future victims. To quote Adam Smith, "Mercy to the guilty is cruelty to the innocent." The flying insects are attracted to the flashlight that Bart attached to Kylo Rentboy's back, but weren't attracted to any of the lightsabers despite earlier being attracted to Qui-Gon Jinn's lightsaber. How are easily killed insects able to carry off a Sith who just wasted 7 Jedi? How did Hugo recover in a few minutes after being stunned? It will take Qui-Gon Jinn considerably longer than that to recover after being stunned by Hugo. Earlier, Hugo decided to turn herself into the Jedi because
I'm good.
Following the slaughter of the Jedi, Hugo asserts,
"The Jedi got what they deserved."
And this comes after Kylo Rentboy tried to kill her, and the only reason she wasn't killed is because the Jedi stopped him. Minutes earlier, the Jedi saved her life. And yet now she is asserting
The Jedi got what they deserved.
I could go on and on about how broken this writing is, but let it suffice to say that by this stage of the episode, Hugo's beliefs and motivation have been shattered to pieces. She's not a consistent character. She's whatever the script requires her to be in the moment. Oh look, it's Groundhog Day. Where was they this whole time? I guess the script just brought them back to collect product placement. Gotta sell those product placement toys and Yord action figures after all. Since this $180 million production sure as shite isn't gonna make its budget back by driving Disney Plus subscriptions. Why doesn't Qui-Gon Jinn smell the reek of burnt hair when Hugo shows up after cutting her hair with a lightsaber? Why doesn't he sense that Hugo is not Bart? Why does Qui-Gon Jinn just leave the bodies of all the Jedi, including his own Padawan, to be turned into carrion bird shit? Why didn't the Jedi set up a password system with Bart in case Hugo attempted to impersonate her on Kafar? Why are the Jedi in this show so shit? Episode 6. The Miserly Mystery Box Tour. Why does Qui-Gon Jinn not attempt to recover the bodies of the slaughtered Jedi? Jay can't get in touch with Karen Green from HR because of comms trouble. This is a typical example of how the show crams in plot beats that weren't properly set up. The comms have always worked perfectly thus far. There is no atmospheric interference and the ship has not been damaged. So why the comms trouble? Because the script requires it. This should have been set up by having Lucy immediately sabotage the comms as soon as Qui-Gon Jinn's back was turned. Groundhog Day has detected Lucy's infiltration. Why does they not even attempt to communicate this knowledge to Qui-Gon Jinn? Why has the woman who did the audio description for this scene not won an award?
He begins to undress, revealing a prominent scar on his well-toned back. Dropping his billowy-legged Hakama pants, he steps forward with the sunlight accentuating his taut muscles.
Why has Jake not arrived with the green titty milk yet? Also, and this really fucking annoyed me, why doesn't Kylo Rentboy bathe his head? Look at how greasy his hair is. Given his recent exertions, his head is no doubt caked in stinking sweat. Dunk your head under the water and scrub, you filthy bastard. Have you ever seen those photos that annoy people with OCD? Like this one with tiles installed incorrectly, so the woman's upper torso and head is at a right angle to the rest of her body, or this toilet floor containing a single red tile in a sea of orange tiles. That's what watching Kylo Rentboy bathe is. He cleans every part of his body from the neck down, but his head remains greasy and disgusting. It's unbearable. Qui-Gon Jinn hugs Lucy and tells her,
You saved us, Osha.
But no, she didn't. Everyone is dead except Jay and Groundhog Day.
The connection was faulty, but it sounded like...
How has Mog not died of a soy overdose? No one can withstand soy power of that magnitude. What does Groundhog Day hope to accomplish by attacking Lucy? Leslie Headland, I mean Kylo Rentboy, defends his slaughter of the Jedi by saying,
I killed those who threatened my existence.
What the fuck are you talking about, you clueless Bassam? No one was threatening Rentboy. The Jedi weren't even aware of his existence until he sent an assassin to murder 2 of them and personally murdered a 3rd. He could have plied his trade and pursued the Force in his own way without any Jedi ever interfering as long as he stayed away from them, which isn't hard to do because the galaxy is big and the Jedi are few. The Acolyte gets a lot wrong, but that is a solid ass shot.
But when you lose everything, that's when you're finally free.
No, Leslie, poverty is not freedom. If you ever left your acreage law protected, gated community and went to a homeless area in LA, they're not hard to find, you would see that losing everything is just about the furthest one can possibly get from freedom.
Our team is ready and we depart in 20. Are you...
You depart in 20? 20 what? 20 shots of pure concentrated soy? 20 strokes of Karen Green from HR's whip in the BDSM chamber? 20 more plot holes over the course of the next 3 minutes? You could build a moon-sized soy star capable of eradicating every T-cell on any planet that it targets, and its capabilities would be insignificant next to the soy power of Mog. How does the Jedi ship arrive at the exact same location Qui-Gon Jinn just left 3 seconds after he left? The chances of this occurring are close to 0. The only hypothetical with a lower probability than this event is Mog successfully seducing a woman. Why does Kylo Rentboy speak to Marie in riddles instead of just answering her question about how he got his scars?
Where'd you get that scar?
How do you think I got it?
Your Jedi Master?
Episode 7. A copy of a plagiarism of a letdown. And we get our first plot hole in the first second of the episode. Why are the Jedi using a metal detector on what they believe to be an uninhabited planet? They are on Mansondani because they believe a Force Vergence occurred here. I don't think they're likely to locate the origin of a Force Vergence with a metal detector.
100 years ago, this planet was catalogued as lifeless.
That makes no sense at all. If the planet was lifeless prior to the Vergence that created Louis XIV and Philippe, then it didn't have an atmosphere. Why would the Lesbiene Gesserit choose a dead planet where they can't breathe to set up their coven? Did all the lesbian space witches just wear spacesuits until powerful Leda was able to perform her Force IVF and create a Vergence that caused a vast ecosystem to spring into life on Mansondani over the course of only a few years? Was Reverend Mother Scrotum Face ambling slowly around in a spacesuit?
Well, if only I knew that what we were doing was somehow meaningful.
We are looking for a Vergence.
The Jedi crew have been on Mansondani for 7 weeks, and Padawan Yes is only finding out about the purpose of the mission now. Isn't this something he would have wanted to know before they departed for the planet? Wouldn't he have found out the purpose of the mission prior to this moment? Would it not have been useful to perform a mission briefing so that everyone on the team knows what exactly the parameters of mission success look like? Why have 4 Jedi been sent to Mansondani to perform basic fieldwork? The tasks they are performing, checking the chemical composition of moss and metal detection, could easily be performed by droids, or if the Jedi really want to splurge, they can hire an ecological survey team and send them out there to perform checks on moss. Why would the Jedi Council waste valuable Jedi on such a basic task? How have the Jedi not seen the giant fucking mountain fortress at any point during the past 7 weeks? What exactly is Padawan Yes's motivation? He wants to go home, but why? Is there a secret lover there he wants to get back to before she gets bored and starts shopping around for a new ride? Is there a prog rock festival coming up he wants to perform at? Is his friend neck deep in shit with a local gang, so Padawan Yes wants to get back before his friend gets himself killed? I want to go home works as motivation for a 3-year-old bored at the zoo on a rainy day. It doesn't work for a grown man.
Their symbionts are the same.
One consciousness into 2 bodies?
One consciousness into 2 bodies. It is an absolute nonsense to suggest that Louis XIV and Philippe are one consciousness, since, as the series has demonstrated in every episode up to now, they aren't. They are separate consciousnesses with separate inner worlds and different personalities. If they were one consciousness, they would have a hive mind. The single consciousness would be able to simultaneously experience both lives. A single consciousness existing in more than one body is a good idea, and was explored successfully in Everything Everywhere All at Once. The villain, Jobu Tupaki, simultaneously experienced the lives of infinite versions of herself in infinite universes, and had access to the knowledge and abilities of those infinite selves. This made her all-powerful. Of course, the Acolyte does not even begin to approach the dramatic and storytelling possibilities of a bi-conscious, force-sensitive individual existing in 2 bodies. If Leslie Headland was an omni-conscious being with access to all the creative powers of an infinity of Leslie Headlands existing simultaneously across the multiverse, she would still possess less creative powers than whatever the bat creature in the Mos Eisley Cantina was drinking, a drink which will no doubt be given a Disney Plus spin-off series following the box office flop of the Mos Eisley Cantina Bat Creature origin story. Why does Padawan Yes rush off against orders to pursue the twins? Is his plan to just run in and grab them? Why is Trinity not able to prevent this mutinous behavior? Why are the Jedi in this show so shit? Why does She-Bowser think an 8-year-old will be an effective impediment to the Jedi's plan to make off with Philippe? If She-Bowser wants to get Louis XIV and Philippe away from the Jedi, why does she not run off to a secret location with them, or put them in the ship the Lesbiene Gesserit travelled in to get to Mansondani and take them to a different planet? Coruscant is only an hour's drive away according to this show. You could hide them there.
You would sacrifice our future for the wish of a child.
Okay, 2 children do not constitute a future for a society. If these Harridans want a future, they're going to have to get busy. She-Bowser's gonna need to give that pool guy a call. They'll have to bring in some scum and villainy from Mos Eisley. Maybe they can bring Kylo Rentboy in on the action.
Dropping his billowy-legged Hakama pants, he steps forward with the sunlight accentuating his taut muscles.
Here's a sample of what current year sounds like.
Witches, arm yourselves!
Those are 3 words that were never meant to be spoken in a Star Wars production. Hugo lights a book on fire, then seems surprised when it goes up in flames. Is she, like Leslie Headland, not familiar with the properties of fire? Why does fire spread across stone again? Why does She-Bowser suddenly go into attack stance? Why does no one ask Hugo what's wrong? Why does powerful Leida turn into a horrifying CGI apparition and attempt to turn Louis XIV into smoke? Why does this show think there's anything wrong with Qui-Gon Jinn's actions? He killed powerful Leida because she seemed to be in the process of disintegrating Louis XIV. He is completely justified here. How did this image come out of a $180 million production?
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the fuck is that? What is that, Private Pile?
What was powerful Leida doing? Was she trying to kill Louis XIV? Was she trying to escape with Louis XIV? The show never attempts to answer this question. Powerful Leida's last words are some approximation of, "Yo, why you getting so upset, bro?"
I was going to let Osha go.
Why didn't she tell the Jedi this earlier? If she had, this whole mess would have been avoided. She-Bowser takes off, never to be seen again. Why does she not go try save Louis XIV and Philippe? She said a few minutes ago,
I would die before I let the Jedi take my children.
And now she's going to take off while her children are in danger of dying in a fire? Why is She-Bowser never revisited or mentioned again in the show? After the fire, why does She-Bowser not return to find any survivors and see if her children are still alive? Why doesn't she find Hugo and bring her with her on a mission to retrieve Philippe and take revenge against the Jedi? How did Louis XIV survive after the destruction of the Lesbiene Gesserit? Who found her? How? When? She-Bowser's escape is a plot thread the show just completely forgets about. The Lesbiene Gesserit cannot take control of Padawan Yes's mind because...
My mind is fortified.
But why wasn't Kalnaka's mind also fortified? He was there when powerful Leida seized control of Padawan Yes's mind. He has learned firsthand that you never go one-on-one with a horny bitch without protection. So somehow, all the Lesbiene Gesserit witches die when Trinity breaks their Wi-Fi connection to Kalnaka. Why?
Somehow.
Why does Qui-Gon Jinn use his force powers to hold up a bridge instead of force grabbing Louis XIV and Philippe, who weigh only a small fraction of the bridge? Why does he jump to grab Philippe's arm instead of force grabbing her? Was his force energy bar empty after holding up the bridge? Trinity tells Kalnaka to send a message to Coruscant, but she does this before she orders a cover-up. Kalnaka might send the whole story, nullifying her plan to cover up the incident. Why did Trinity not order the cover-up before she told Kalnaka to send a message to Coruscant? Qui-Gon Jinn says he wanted to train Louis XIV and Philippe because...
I wanted the twins to be safe.
What made him think they were in danger? They were well fed, evidently well raised. They were being educated and they showed no sign of physical or mental abuse. Why does Trinity form a conspiracy of lies to cover up the incident? That is not the Jedi way. In any case, there's no need to lie. The Jedi were justified in their actions. Qui-Gon Jinn killed powerful Leida in defense of Louis XIV, and the rest of the Lesbiene Gesserit died while trying to kill 3 Jedi because Trinity broke their Wi-Fi connection to Kalnaka. There is no crime to cover up. Who in the name of Satan's CGI department chose this as a credit song for a Star Wars production? And there are probably many more plot holes that I was not perceptive enough to pick up on. In terms of plot, character, and mechanics, The Acolyte is the most broken piece of nominal entertainment the Despot has ever covered on this channel since I started my reign of terror 2 glorious years ago. This series is a reflection of how completely broken the Star Wars franchise itself has become over the past...
Reflection of myself, reflection of myself, reflection of myself.
Mr. Reflection? Well, as thrilled as I am to see a gay black person in what is at least nominally Star Wars, I was referring to...
For marginalized people, a lot of energy is devoted to justifying your existence in spaces.
Indeed, Mr. Reflection. But unlike powerful Leida, your existence as a gay black body of color will not be impeded. No one will attempt to rob you of your existence in spaces. The Despot welcomes all great talent, no matter the color or the...
Fuck you! Fuck you! Get the fuck out of here!
Carrie, what are you doing?
Could you leave us? We're talking.
Carrie, you were suspended from the channel. Now let Mr. Reflection go and put down the lightsaber.
Fuck you!
It is not easy to communicate the sheer scale of the calamity that has been Disney's murder of the Star Wars franchise, and they have murdered it so spitefully, with such mean-spirited venom. We're so used to hearing the refrain, Disney killed Star Wars, or Star Wars is dead, that we forget what that actually means. This fictional world of hope, optimism, action, and adventure has been completely inverted. Where once there was hope, now there is bitterness and despair. Instead of being optimistic, the shows are nihilistic and depressing. Instead of action, audiences get endless, plodding plots full of filler, long, boring sequences of glorified nothing, and plot stretching so depraved that the US government should legislate against it as a public obscenity. The old heroes have all been torn down because they're considered problematic by the pussy-ish, pansy-ass bores that write Disney Plus slop. Instead of a sense of adventure, fans are now filled only with a sense of dread as the next Disney Lucasfilm monstrosity comes lumbering over the horizon. Here's a video of Star Wars fans reacting to the trailer for The Force Awakens a long time ago in a cultural landscape far, far away. That is what Disney destroyed. That enthusiasm, that love and joy this fictional world filled fans with is gone. The movie those Star Wars fans were going wild for ultimately turned out to be a fairly crap mid-2010s sci-fi flick which was quickly exposed as a barely disguised New Hope knockoff. Now, a decade later, enthusiasm for Star Wars is at an all-time low, and Star Wars is, without doubt, the most hated franchise in the world. The Acolyte has received a Rotten Tomatoes audience rating of 15%. Every single Instagram post that Disney Lucasfilm creates to promote The Acolyte is flooded with scathing criticism of the show, and without exception, the most upvoted reply is the Fire Kathleen Kennedy button. By the way, Disney, fire Kathleen Kennedy. I sensed a change in the culture war when the Acolyte trailer dropped and got ratioed into the nether realm. Star Wars wasn't just dead, it was uncool. Hating Disney Star Wars has gone mainstream. When the Acolyte debuted, a lot of YouTube videos dropped with clickbait titles like,
"The Acolyte will kill Star Wars! Star Wars is finally dead. The Acolyte killed it." Or, "The Acolyte is the death of Star Wars."
These videos' authors meant well, they're just trying to create titles that will generate interest in their video. But they're wrong. The Acolyte did not and cannot kill Star Wars. Nothing can kill that which is already dead. The Acolyte can no more kill Star Wars than Rey Palpatine can kill the corpse of the already long dead Emperor Palpatine. Star Wars is dead. Creatively, culturally, and commercially dead. The Acolyte received the lowest ratings of any Disney Plus Star Wars series. No one cares about this franchise anymore. Vanishingly few viewers are genuinely interested in watching current Star Wars product. Most of the legacy fanbase that remained after the sequel trilogy left the franchise to rot after the Obi Wan Kenobi debacle. That was 2 years ago, and Disney Lucasfilm failed to build a new fanbase to replace the legacy fanbase. A legacy fanbase that Disney despise, with a vitriol that makes Darth Maul's feelings about the Jedi appear fraternal by comparison. My assertion that there is no new fanbase, that kids don't care about Star Wars, is not anecdotal or guesswork. It's backed by hard data. This article from Cosmic Book News details Gen Z's total apathy to Star Wars. Only 5% of Gen Z is watching Disney Plus, and only a small minority of those are watching any Star Wars content. It is not an exaggeration to say that maybe 1 in 100 young people care enough about Star Wars to actually watch the latest production that Lucasfilm has manufactured. After the Obi Wan Kenobi fiasco, I posted a video in which I prophesied the death of Star Wars as a commercially viable franchise. In that video, I identified 8 areas of critical importance to a franchise: fanbase size, cultural influence, qualitative perception, star power, audience appetite, financial health, popularity, brand image. I estimated that at the time, Star Wars was scraping by in only one of those areas: financial success. This was because 4 out of the 5 Disney movies had made over $1 billion. The Force Awakens had made $2 billion, and The Mandalorian Season 1 had been a big hit. Since then, Star Wars has become a money pit. Andor was a $250 million flop. It was, unfortunately, the least viewed Disney Star Wars project at the time, though since then, The Acolyte has taken its rightful place as the least viewed Star Wars show. The Mandalorian collapsed in quality and viewership fell off a cliff. By the end of Season 3, the show was deader than Lizzo's acting career. Ahsoka was a $100 million nothing burger, and now The Acolyte is the worst received, worst rated Disney Plus show since the platform launched. The Acolyte is the 6th flop in a row for Star Wars, 7th if you include the Star Cringer Hotel, which Disney closed down after sinking $1 billion into it. It is the 9th flop in a row for Disney Lucasfilm. Indiana Jones 5 was one of the biggest box office bombs in history, and Willow was so bad that Disney scrubbed it from Disney Plus every bit as thoroughly as Lucasfilm scrubbed Willow from his own show. Disney, fire Kathleen Kennedy. Lucasfilm is losing Disney hundreds of millions of dollars a year, and sales of the Yord action figure aren't going to make up the losses, nor will the much-threatened Rey movie. Disney's announcement of the Rey movie was met with an indifference so great that it was comparable to the galaxy's shock when news that Palpatine, through his mastery of a dark force power known only as somehow, had returned. Disney Lucasfilm's Rey Palpatine movie has to rely on the strength of the Star Wars franchise, which is dead. And the popularity of the Rey character, who isn't really even a character, and whose popularity among the Star Wars fanbase lies somewhere between Greedo and that cute bat-faced creature that was eager for a drink at the Mos Eisley Cantina, and who will inevitably get an origin story movie. That said, I hope Disney does release a Rey movie. It would be an audience referendum on the sequel trilogy and the state of Star Wars. The movie would bomb, and the mainstream media wouldn't be able to run interference and pretend the project wasn't a disastrous failure, as they attempted to do with The Acolyte. The failure of the Rey movie would be a much needed catharsis for the fans. Disney Lucasfilm deserve to be publicly humiliated for what they have done to the Star Wars franchise and fanbase, for all the insults, slander, libel against the fans, and shite projects that no one asked for. Oh, and Disney? I spent all of yesterday thinking about this, and I came up with a really novel solution for what might solve Lucasfilm's problems. I think, and just hear me out, I think they should fire Kathleen Kennedy.
I'm thinking that could be true.
It could work.
I'm thinking...
Now, you may respond.
But Despot, my liege lord, what good would that do? What could possibly save the Star Wars franchise after all the damage that has been wrought upon it by the impure one?
Well, let's suppose that Disney do decide to go based and hire the Despot as head of Lucasfilm. Before I condescend to accept the position, Disney will kowtow before the fans and deliver the following groveling apology.
Yeah, listen. We fucked up.
Following that, my priorities on day one are as follows.
Bitches leave.
No more Deborah Chow's, Kathleen Kennedy and her many DEI hires. No more trios of stoic girl bosses. No more Reys. No more lesbian space witches. No more Charmin Obaid Chenoys. No more Leslie Headlands. No more Karen Green from HR's. In fact, no more Karens, period. Except Karen iPhone. Clean fucking house. Then, when there's no one left in the building but me and the guys that did Andor, we can begin the long, difficult work of rebuilding the franchise. Now, the finale. Episode 8 of The Acolyte. But before we get to that, it's time for our final episode of Bill O'Reilly Reviews. Bill has previously given us his thoughts on The Last of Us and an in-depth analysis of The Marvels. And today, he'll be completing the Bill O'Reilly Reviews trilogy with a full season review of The Acolyte. Enjoy the show.
Fucking thing fucking sucks! Fuck it!
Great show, Bill, and great series. You will be missed, but not forgotten. Episode 8, The Thing and I Can't Even. It's so It's fucking awful. Does not matter what aspect of filmmaking you point out, it's done wrong. The Acolyte is... I can't even.
He literally can't even.
We will commence our assault operation against the season finale of The Acolyte by examining a speech generic government busybody gives to Karen Green from HR. This speech contextualizes the moral and thematic framework of The Acolyte. In this scene, Karen Green from HR is confronted by generic government busybody. Generic government busybody is a character of absolutely no consequence to the story whatsoever. His sole function is to act as a mouthpiece to deliver Leslie Headland's anti-Jedi revisionist screed. For the purposes of copyright, Karen iPhone will be reading the screed.
I think the Jedi are a massive system of unchecked power posing as a religion, a delusional cult that claims to control the uncontrollable. Your emotions, you project an image of goodness and restraint, but it's only a matter of time before one of you snaps and, when, not, if, that happens, who will be strong enough to stop him? When you're looking up to heroes, you don't have to face what's right in front of you.
A screed this disgusting must be given a name that we may mark it for the moral contagion that it is, so that all will know to throw rocks when they see it. Screed.
Henceforth, you shall be known as...
Screed 66. The screed that attempted to destroy the Jedi Order. Leslie Headland wants viewers to rub their chins and say,
You know, generic government busybody makes a good point there. Maybe the Jedi aren't the heroes we were led to believe they were. If only I'd known this as a child when I loved Star Wars, then I could have been spared the countless hours of joy I spent lovingly exploring the Star Wars galaxy in movies, games, novels, and cosplay events. Thank you, Leslie Headland, for ruining my childhood. May the Force be with you. Oh, I mean, fuck the Force and fuck the Jedi.
No wonder this spiteful little wank stain of a show is the least viewed Star Wars Disney Plus series by far. I am no stranger to screeds. I am a veteran of several of them. The She-Hulk screed and the infamous America Ferrera screed from Barbie come to mind. The Barbie screed was so horrific that even the director, Greta Gerwig, admitted that many crew members were crying tears of boredom and despair during the 40 or so takes of the screed they had to endure. Trying to take on an entire screed all at once is like firing blindly into a TIE fighter formation. You might score a few hits, but you will have far more success picking your target, destroying it, and moving on to the next target. With that in mind, we will be going through Screed 66 one line at a time until the threat has been neutralized. So let's begin.
I think the Jedi are a massive system of unchecked power.
The Jedi were never a massive organization. There were no more than 10,000 Jedi Knights spread throughout the entire galaxy during the High Republic era. The idea that the Jedi had unchecked power is just wrong. The Imperial Japanese Army of the 1930s could be accurately described as a massive system of unchecked power. They numbered in the millions, they invaded and occupied Manchuria despite orders from Tokyo not to do so, and later carried out a major invasion of China, largely according to their own priorities and strategy. They abided by no international conventions or treaties, and the Tokyo government had only modest influence on how the Imperial Army conducted military operations during the China incident, as Japan referred to their genocidal invasion of that country. The European Union is a massive system of unchecked power. The European Council is unelected, but is the main policy-making organ of the EU. The President of the European Commission is not elected. Ursula von der Leyen never received a single vote from a European citizen, yet she is the most powerful politician in the EU and has influence over the lives of 448 million people living in EU nations. The EU is absolutely a massive system of unchecked power, and one that must be smashed and replaced with the benevolent tyranny of the Despot. The Jedi are a few thousand peacekeepers beholden to the laws of an elected government. They have no territory, no army, and do not exercise sovereign or executive authority over any populations. To call them a massive system of unchecked power is simply wrong.
A delusional cult that claims to control the uncontrollable, your emotions.
You could argue the Jedi are a cult, but this is an uninteresting and largely semantic argument. If a belief system has few followers, it is called a cult. If it has many, it is called a religion. When generic government busybody says the Jedi claim to control the uncontrollable, he refers not to the Force, but to emotions. In his view, by which I mean Leslie Headland's view, emotions are uncontrollable, which, as everyone who has ever experienced an emotion is aware, is complete bollocks. Emotions can be controlled, even with much practice, mastered. People who have learned to control a short temper have taken control of their emotions. Former junkies who have gotten clean have learned to control their emotions. They stay clean by rejecting the emotional urge for instant gratification. This emotional control remains difficult even after the junkie has gotten over the physical need for the drug. The Jedi are masters of controlling their emotions. We saw this in The Phantom Menace when Qui-Gon Jinn, in the middle of a lightsaber duel, started meditating. Such boss-level calm and self-discipline requires immense control of one's emotions.
You project an image of goodness and restraint.
No, the Jedi's positive public image is the natural result of the fact that they are both good and restrained. This is an order of powerful warriors who could quite easily conquer entire planets, but they choose not to. They have given themselves over to the light side of the Force and work to keep the peace in a large and chaotic galactic republic. They restrain their own power and place themselves at the service of the public for the benefit of the Republic and its people.
But it's only a matter of time before one of you snaps. And when, not if that happens, who will be strong enough to stop him?
Well, of course, the Jedi that snaps is going to be a him, because as anyone who has ever been in a relationship with a woman can attest, no woman has ever snapped and lost her shit. Leslie Headland's mouthpiece does not define what he means by snap, but we assume he means go rogue and start trying to accrue power. The mouthpiece asks who would stop such a rogue. The answer is simple: other Jedi who didn't snap and remained loyal to the Republic. And the screed finishes with another one of this series' horrific ropisms.
When you're looking up to heroes, you don't have to face what's right in front of you.
The dog may bark at the moon, but he cannot bring it down.
The Jedi are heroes, and if people look up to them in awe, that is a natural consequence of their heroism, not the end goal of social engineering. The Jedi do not pedestalize themselves. They do not create a cult of personality around their leader or demand public adulation of Jedi Knights and Masters, like, for example, the Sith did. Emperor Palpatine literally pedestalized himself. He had giant statues of himself built throughout his empire. We see one of them toppled at the end of Return of the Jedi. Leslie Headland's moral compass is so corrupt that she genuinely believes the Jedi are morally equatable to a genocidal empire. She is a postmodernist. She does not believe in objective morality. She believes that power is a zero-sum game, that it can only be accrued at the expense of others, that the Jedi are at the top of what she would call a dominance hierarchy, and can only have achieved such station by oppressing others and keeping them down. In The Acolyte, the Sith are portrayed as an oppressed people who have suffered discrimination under the Jedi. In the mind of Leslie Headland, Kylo Rentboy's slaughter of the Jedi on Kafar is not a moral outrage, but an act of rebellion, no different to the rebellion of the Rebel Alliance against the Empire. The innate differences between the Jedi and the Sith have nothing to do with spirituality, duty, ontological purity, or the desire to serve others rather than to serve one's own base desires. No, the differences between the Jedi and the Sith can ultimately be boiled down to one word:
Semantics.
A Jedi acts selflessly to free a child from slavery. A Sith tries to murder that same child by casually mowing him down. The difference?
Semantics.
A Jedi hides newborn twins in order to ensure their safety. A Sith slaughters a classroom full of children. The difference?
Semantics.
A genocidal empire led by a Sith blows up an entire planet, murdering billions of people. A Jedi destroys the base used to commit this genocide and every murdering scumbag on it. The difference?
Semantics.
But if you can't look and see that Anakin blowing up the Death Star possibly killed millions and millions of people.
The moral framework of Leslie Headland's fiction is psychopathic. Our hero, Osha, murders an innocent man at the end, which Headland believes to be the completion of a social justice arc. This murder is portrayed as a justified act, but is in fact just murder. Our other hero, May, faces absolutely no consequences for her murder of two Jedi, because it all gets pinned on poor old Qui-Gon Jinn. You are supposed to sympathize with these vengeful, murderous There's no one to root for in this show. The Jedi are corrupt, deceitful, incompetent, ill-disciplined, overbearing, and conspiratorial. Kylo Rentboy is a rampaging, bloodthirsty Sith. May flip-flops so much over the course of the series, you'd swear she was being spit-roasted while running for political office. Osha isn't even a character. She's a non-entity that functions as a plot device and ends up murdering the only character in the show who's even close to likable, and that's almost entirely due to E. Jung Jae's performance. Not content merely to shit on the Jedi with Screed 66, Leslie decides to unzip, squat down, and let flow a stream of acrid piss, a move usually reserved for her private encounters with Karen Green from HR. She does so with this parting middle finger to the childhood of every lifetime Star Wars fan.
Good luck. Now, what is it you say? May the Force be with you.
She belittles the sacred phrase at the beating heart of Star Wars. The Acolyte's treatment of the Star Wars franchise is so vicious, so bloodthirsty in its revisionist destruction that it could only have been done by someone who detests the franchise and its fans. In terms of plot, The Thing and I Can't Even is the same contrived, non-sequitur trash as every other episode of this dross. The script contrives to have everyone arrive on Manson Dani with a few minutes of each other, despite coming from different parts of the galaxy, but I guess they all had the Ocarina of Time, or the Sheikah Slate, or something. Kylo Rentboy and Qui-Gon Jinn have a fairly decent looking lightsaber duel. Bart and Hugo have the worst fight in Star Wars history, and honestly, this might be the worst fight I've ever seen in a show or movie. Qui-Gon Jinn spurs Kylo Rentboy's life again. Bart finds out that Jay killed her mother. Why does Jay not explain that this was entirely justified? Well, because...
A good question. For another time.
So, in another act of anti-white firstism, Bart becomes the first Force user to strangle someone. Take that, Anakin, you third-rate white mediocrity, you imitator. And with this act, Bart turns a blue lightsaber red, and it is revealed that Bart was the evil one all along, and that Dr. Hibbert confused the twins when he started writing the script, and that Hugo is in fact the good twin. Bart embraces her identity as the evil twin, and goes off to train with Kylo Rentboy, and Hugo volunteers to have her memory wiped, then takes off with the Jedi. And Bart is in black now, so he's evil, and Hugo is in white, so she's good. And there's a scene with Darth Plagueis looking on from the shadows because Mystery Box Season 2 bait, and the last scene shows the back of Yoda's head because Nostalgia Bait Season 2 bait. The plot holes are as follows. Why does Kylo Rentboy take Bart to go stop Hugo from murdering Qui-Gon Jinn? Doesn't he like it when Jedi are killed? He abandoned Hugo as an apprentice. He tried to kill her several times on Kafar, so why would he be interested in pursuing her now if not to kill her? If he wants Bart to know the deep dark secret that Qui-Gon Jinn killed her mother, why does he not simply tell her? And when she protests,
"It's not true. That's impossible!"
he can respond,
"Search your feelings, you know it to be true."
What exactly is motivating Kylo Rentboy's actions here? Why did Qui-Gon Jinn not remove product placement from Hugo when he tied her up in the show? When Hugo spits invective at Jay, accusing him of murdering her mother, why does Jay respond vaguely,
"What happened to you, to your coven, was an accident"?
Instead of explaining, "I killed your mother because she turned into a terrifying smoke monster CGI abomination and seemed to be in the process of disintegrating you. As far as I was concerned, I acted to save your life, just like I acted to save your life on Kafar when Kylo Rentboy tried to murder you." How is it that fate always seems to intervene to prevent a big reveal at the exact moment the reveal is about to come?
You and Osha are not twins.
See you in hell, Jedi.
See you in hell. Oh my god, is that an attempt to ape Han Solo's glorious riposte in The Empire Strikes Back? Karen iPhone, fucking deal with this.
When a good actor delivers a line.
Your tauntaun will freeze before you reach the first marker.
Then I'll see you in hell.
When a bad actor delivers a line.
See you in hell, Jedi.
How convenient that Hugo escaped the ship at the exact moment it arrived on Manson Dani, just like when the prisoners in episode 1 escaped at the exact moment the prison ship was passing a planet. Why does Groundhog Day suddenly decide to sabotage Qui-Gon Jinn's efforts to capture Hugo? About an hour ago, they was helping Jay capture Hugo, and now they're helping Hugo escape Jay? Why? What has caused their reversal of loyalties? Why is Darth Plagueis on Craggy Island? Did he make the Jake clone? Why is he hiding in a cave? Is he allergic to sunlight, or does the show just want to keep him in the shadows so they can turn him into a mystery box in a pathetic attempt to justify renewing this abominable fucking disaster for a second season? If he's been here all along, why hasn't he been out there slicing Jedi and building his power base? Why is he hiding in a fucking cave on Craggy Island? Oh look, Qui-Gon Jinn turned turns the corner just as Hugo appears climbing into the corridor. Once again, the script intervenes in the nick of time to prevent Hugo's capture so the plot can happen. Also, why can't Jay sense the presence of Hugo in the immediate vicinity? So Hugo finally reveals the truth to Bart.
Sol killed our mother.
Why did she not tell her this when they were alone together on Kafar? How did Amanda Stenberg master Rosario Dawson's pensioner calisthenics fighting style so perfectly? How did the production crew not collapse in fits of laughter while witnessing Amanda Stenberg's attempt at a fight scene? Why did the US government not immediately pass emergency legislation outlawing women from doing fight scenes after the release of this episode? How is Bart not being torn to shreds here? Bart hasn't trained in, what, a decade or something? Meanwhile, Hugo has been under the tutelage of a Sith trained by Darth Plagueis. Hugo should make mincemeat of Bart in seconds. I will say the lightsaber duel between Kylo Rentboy and Qui-Gon Jinn is quite good, which makes the ridiculous two girls, one product placement fight look even worse than it already is. Why doesn't Jay kill Rentboy? Render justice upon this man who killed your Padawan, you contemptible whore! Oh look, more plagiarism.
Strike him down, and your journey will be complete.
Strike me down with all of your hatred, and your journey towards the dark side will be complete.
I want him to pay for his crimes.
What fucking crimes? He killed a communist witch who turned into a smoke monster and seemed to be in the process of murdering an 8-year-old child. There is such a thing as a justified killing, and Qui-Gon Jinn's killing of powerful leader is a textbook example of this.
You and the ocean are the same person.
No, we have been over this. They are not the same person. They are separate consciousnesses. Therefore, they are separate people. Clearly, Leslie Headland does not know what constitutes a person, which, given the psychopathic moral framework of her show, does not actually surprise me. Saul tells Bart it's okay for her to kill him, but in encouraging her to murder him, he condemns Bart to the dark side. Why does he not tell her to fight her anger, her vengeful instincts, as a Jedi would? Earlier in the episode, he confessed to Hugo that he killed powerful Leida and that he would tell the Jedi Council everything. He liberated himself from his deceit and fully embraced the light side of the Force, which leads to his glorious victory over Kylo Rentboy. He achieves a redemption arc. In fact, this constitutes the only halfway decent bit of dramatic development in this Fuck it, leave it in this entirely smouldering fuck heap of a catastrophe. But literally minutes later, Jay's arc is ruined by him telling Bart that it's okay for her to betray the light side of the Force and turn Sith by murdering him in cold blood, which also ensures that there will be no public confession of the Jedi destruction of the Lesbiene Gesserit and no further investigation into the virgins that created Bart and Hugo. Not only is Qui-Gon Jinn's arc utterly destroyed within minutes of its completion, his character development is completely contradicted by himself. Why does Jay's lightsaber turn from blue to red? This isn't how kyber crystal bleeding works. Anakin slaughtered an entire room full of children, turning himself into a monster, and his lightsaber remained blue. Why is it necessary for Kylo Rentboy to erase Hugo's memories so the Jedi can't find him and Bart? There are other, more practical and less dramatic solutions to this problem. Bart and Rentboy could take Hugo with them and dump her on the first halfway decent planet they come across. The Jedi would not find her. Bart and Rentboy could simply set up shop somewhere other than Craggy Island. They'll miss out on Father Ted's Sunday sermons and the tea at the tea room, but I'm sure they'll survive. Alternatively, they could take Hugo with them to their new location. They can train in the countryside and Hugo can work on a farm or in a city or something. They'll meet up on weekends. Everybody's happy. So Karen Green from HR blames the slaughter of all the Jedi on Kafar on Qui-Gon Jinn, and no one questions this narrative. They all accept that one man was able to kill Master Kalnaka and all the Jedi that presumably witnessed this slaughter, including his own Padawan, and that, for whatever reason, this traitor Jedi then took off to the planet where the events he's trying to cover up happened, and there killed himself. But how could Jay have murdered Jedi Master Yes? His presence was accounted for at the time of Master Yes's murder, and the initial break-in at the Jedi Temple in Backwater Village 2 occurred when Jay was on Coruscant. And how could he have killed Trinity? He was on Coruscant when she was murdered? This doesn't quite add up. Could it be that this was in fact not all the work of a lone assassin, and that there is clearly a broader conspiracy at play play here? Does Karen Green from HR seriously expect anyone to believe this narrative? Next, she's going to be telling us that there was no one on the roof of the Jedi Temple in Backwater Village 2 because the roof was slanted and they didn't want to endanger security personnel. Actually, no, that's too ridiculous, even for the Acolyte. And since Karen Green from HR was in charge of the operation in which 7 Jedi were slaughtered, why hasn't she resigned? Why hasn't she been fired? Is she being kept in place by the High Republic government because they want someone incompetent in that role? Not only should she be fired, she should be investigated for criminal complicity in these killings. This stinks of conspiracy. The Jedi must be investigated. The only reason for Karen Green from HR to cover all this up, rather than admit the Jedi were killed by a Sith, is to protect the Sith. So presumably she is a Sith Lord. The reveal and fallout of Karen Green being unmasked as a Sith Lord would have provided this vapid tranquilizer of a show with some much needed plot. This season of content had about a third of the plot it needed to justify its runtime, if that. So why bother hiding Karen Green from HR's identity? Just do the Karen Green from HR as a Sith plot, give Darth Plagueis at least an episode to do something. Give us the Jake the Clone Goes Fishing subplot. Fucking anything. The moment in cultural history that is the Acolyte ends with Kylo Rentboy holding Bart's hand as they look out into the horizon, while Darth Plagueis looks on from his cave, Jake gathers the milk, and Father Jack finds a bottle of whiskey. The twin plot of the Acolyte ended exactly as anyone paying attention expected. The good twin turned out to be the evil twin, and the evil twin turned out to be good. The exact trope The Simpsons brilliantly mocked almost 30 years ago.
Mom, Hugo's eating his napkin. So cute. Hey, can I have some turkey?
Oh, you finish your fish heads, then we'll talk.
Just over a month after The Acolyte ended, vital intelligence was smuggled out of Disney that brought catharsis and schadenfreude to Star Wars fans across the galaxy. As you can see here, The Acolyte was shit-canned shortly after the series finale bombed in the ratings.
I want to slip my tube steak into your sister. What are you taking trade? What do you got?
The Acolyte is the worst piece of Star Wars media ever created. There is no book, comic, video game, fan fiction, fan-made YouTube video, or vapid piece of Disney Lucasfilm shite that is worse. The Acolyte is rock bottom for Star Wars. The Acolyte is incontestably the worst show of 2024. It is one of the worst shows ever made. Let us briefly glimpse back to an era before the dark times, before the corporatization of science fiction. In 1966, Harlan Ellison wrote the sci-fi masterpiece I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. The story is set in the aftermath of an apocalyptic Third World War. The last 5 human beings are trapped inside a sentient computer named Am, where they have been held prisoner for 109 years. They are powerless against the godlike control Am has over them. They endure barely imaginable pain in an endless cycle of torture the computer inflicts on them as revenge against humanity for its own existence. No one is permitted to die. Am uses biological metamorphosis as a torture device against his prisoners. At the end of the story, Ellison describes the metamorphosed state that Am has imposed upon the last survivor of a rebellion against the great computer.
I am a great, soft, jelly thing, smoothly rounded, with no mouth, with pulsing white holes filled by fog where my eyes used to be. Rubbery appendages that were once my arms, bulks rounding down into legless humps of soft, slippery matter. I leave a moist trail when I move. Blotches of diseased, evil gray come and go on my surface, as though light is being beamed from within. Outwardly, dumbly I shamble about, a thing that could never have been known as human, a thing whose shape is so alien a travesty that humanity becomes more obscene for the vague resemblance.
The Acolyte is the franchise equivalent of the metamorphite described at the end of I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. It is so alien a travesty that Star Wars becomes more obscene for the vague resemblance to it. Prior to the release of The Acolyte, Star Wars was merely a dead franchise. Now it is a laughingstock, a decapitated zombie ambling clumsily around looking for its head in a vaguely comical but ultimately quite disgusting and tragic dance of zombified living death. Let us turn away now from Leslie Headland's cultural atrocity and end this video by admiring the vastly superior creations of past masters whose work still calls out to us through the acid fog of a bad trip a long time ago, set in a galaxy far, far away.
No matter how different we appear, we're all the same in our struggle against the powers of evil and darkness. We celebrate a day of peace, a day of